pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Welcome, everybody. Just before we get started, our audience participation, unscheduled audience participation cards are on the top over by the bucket of water. So you can fill those out and get them to Angela before we get to that part of our presentation. That would be much appreciated. The guidelines for audience participation is on there. And we'll also be having a discussion about audience participation moving forward with this board. So, that being said, Dr. Reese, will you take attendance, please? I had to remember who was taking attendance.
Oh, that's me now. All right. President D'Alessandro?
Here.
Vice President Schaefer?
Here.
Secretary Reese here. Treasurer Hanser?
Present.
Trustee McDonough?
Here.
Trustee Summers?
Here.
Trustee Whitney?
Here.
Okay, and one other thing, as we go forward, just make sure you're hitting your green button. I think everybody was very well heard, but just want to just bring that up. Remember?
I know, I'm the one who always forgets, but
I just want. Okay, there are changes to the board agenda. There aren't any. There is a motion for a consent agenda, which is item number 3, which is the meeting of our minutes from January 10th. Is there a motion? Mary,
Move to approve the consent agenda as presented.
is there support? Support, James. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Item number 4, prearranged request to address the board. And that would be Principal Beasley from Oxford High School.
Good evening, everyone.
It is all yours.
Thank you. We do have a presentation up here, and I was telling Amanda before the meeting that it is so difficult to take everything good that happens in our school and to talk about it in 5 minutes time. So I'm going to do my best, but I want to start by acknowledging and introducing our student relations teams at Oxford High School. One of the things that we did this year in order to meet student needs is to divide our staff in the counseling and administrative offices into teams. And so our student relations teams are broken up. Each team has an assistant principal, 2 counselors, a family school liaison, and then the entire team is supported by our dean of students and myself. So before I get started, I want to introduce the A through F leader, Christy Gibson Marshall. She works with 2 counselors, like I said, and a family school liaison. The G through M part of the alphabet is Mr. Kurt Noose. And N through Z, Mr. Kevin Nelms. Mitch Brooks is our Dean of Students, and again, he supports all students, as well as our athletic director, Tony DeMar, who is here as well. So we're really proud of the work that we're doing within our teams. Our teams meet weekly, and they discuss just those students and issues related to their part of the alphabet. We also meet as a counseling group. We have administrator meetings, but these particular meetings, these student relations teams, are the people that are supporting the students on a day-to-day basis and sometimes hour-to-hour basis. I would like to continue on by letting you know that we have my presentation has broken up into a couple parts, and I wanted to just acknowledge some of the things that we're doing in the area of academics this year. Our main goal, is increase rigor in all classes. Last year, as you know, was quite difficult for our students and our staff, and that was one thing coming into the school year that I heard loud and clear from our administration, from Mr. Wolf, from the teachers, from the parents, from the students, that they were ready to get back to learning And we did that starting on day one. This year we just finished final exams for semester one. It's the first time in over 12 years that our entire building has had final exams. Previously, we had some opt-out options for our students, and we were really proud of the work that they did. Grades are due tomorrow, and our teachers have been busy working on that. I just want to also recognize that the support of Oakland Schools to our building has been just tremendous in the last year, and we've been focusing on social emotional learning, and we've been partnering with them for professional learning. And I'm going to talk about a day that we had just a couple days ago in the help that we had from them. These are some of the supports that we offer, and I just wanted to note the range of supports. So we have honor societies that work with students. We have Varsity Tutors, which is a 24/7 online support. That's for all of our secondary students in Oxford. And we also offered a SAT prep class, which is on after school and weekends for students, and that's free of charge for students that were interested. So that's been going very well as well. Next up, I wanted to just highlight for you in the area of the arts. The arts had a lot to highlight for us this year, and our building has been host for choir, solo, and ensemble, for festival, band, and orchestra. We are really proud of the building and our facilities, and the work that our team does to keep that building in tip-top shape, so we are able to host those types of things. One thing that I wanted to just highlight, in the upper left-hand corner, you see two students. Those are our all-state band and orchestra members. Finn and Julia just got back from our conference where they had auditioned for and made the all-state band and orchestra. So they did a great work and represented Oxford very, very well this past weekend. The other thing that I wanted to highlight here is our performance in March. Please mark your calendars, March 16th to the 19th. The Little Mermaid is going to be a complex collaboration. We keep saying this. It's the entire department. So it's band, choir, dance, orchestra, our stagecraft, and our theater departments come together. We've got some elementary students that are involved and middle schoolers, and it's going to be a great performance. And we really appreciate being able to have the stage tonight. So the board meeting is here. Thank you. They need all of the practice time that they can get, they tell me. So in the area of athletics, under Mr. DeMar, next up, we have over 400 fall athletes. We were really excited about that, 240 winter athletes. And just this fall, we honored 5 new inductees into our Hall of Fame, the Athletic Hall of Fame. It's the first induction that we've had since 2018. And so a lot of familiar faces. Tony and his department put on a great event for our inductees. We are very excited about our 2 county championships so far this year. We have our girls cross country and our boys bowling teams. And Tony has been a leader in the state with offering our building and our facilities for MHSAA tournaments. We are going to be host for 9 of those this year. So it's a great way to showcase Oxford, get the business in town, and also just have people come to our neck of the woods. Another highlight that I wanted to mention, that the girls basketball team and our cheerleaders were at Little Caesars Arena at the beginning of the month, and we won, and it was a great event. So the girls had a great time playing on the Pistons floor. Next up, a couple points of pride for you. We wanted to let you know that 66% of our AP test takers last year scored a 3 or higher. And as you may or may not know, 3s, 4s, and 5s are very, very good. And we're proud of that work. In the International Baccalaureate, Rita Van Staveren has just moved over to the MYP, so supporting 6 through 10 in the middle years program. Training has been continuing on for staff. We had last year 8 full IB candidates for their IB diploma, and this year we have 26 potential candidates for their full IB diplomas. Couple of other highlights there for you, and at the bottom right-hand corner, you see this is restorative practices training that we did on January 16th with the support of our district leadership,
Bridget Bittner, who is our restorative practices coordinator. With the help of Oakland Schools, we delivered an amazing all-day training on that day for our entire staff. And so we are now fully certified. All of our certified staff are now fully trained in restorative practices. It's a big undertaking, and Bridget did a great job this year getting everyone trained. In the areas of CTE, we wanted to let you know that 40% of our population of our buildings sit in a CTE class. And so under the leadership of Lisa Butts, we have developed our programming, and our students are enjoying things like in engineering, and you'll see here in the EMT class, we had 6 students pass that exam to become full EMTs. That class has doubled in size this year, so things are going great in our CTE area. OSEC, under the leadership of Mark Suckley here at OHS, we had 3 OSEC juniors complete some training in order to provide an entire leadership day for our OSEC students, and that was in August. We just hired a career navigator to support college, career, and life readiness, and we look forward to her jumping on board here in another week or so, and she will support secondary schools in Oxford, not just Oxford High School. In special education, we are implementing direct instruction classes, and we're working on some math sequencing to make some relevancy for our students as they go through their career at OHS in the area of math. We had undergraduate awards night this year and also a National Honor Society induction. We inducted 42 new members, and so we have 59 total NHS members at OHS. Our advisory is focused on social emotional learning, and we're working on our educational development plans. The other thing I wanted to point out, that we have so many things for students to do at OHS. I think one thing that we've realized, and we know this, that when students are involved in an after-school activity or an athletic or a club, they just have that connection to the building. And based on some student input this year, we have brought back our powerlifting club. It has over 60 members, and the student athletes are already competing, and they've done just a fabulous job. It's been a welcomed addition back to OHS. And the other thing I wanted to highlight here is that our leadership class, under the direction of Mr. Brown and Ms. Getz, we are going to be the host of the State Student Leadership Conference in Grand Rapids in February. Huge undertaking. When Ms. Getz called me in the summer and said, "What do you think?" Of course, I'm going to bite off more than I can chew, but our students have been preparing for that. Being a host of a conference is a huge undertaking, and they are so excited, and it'll be a great event for all of our students in the state who participate in that conference. This fall, we welcomed back inside to a homecoming assembly. So the photo at the top is our homecoming assembly. We also had an athletic assembly. We had our first wrestling dual meet of the season as an assembly for students. And then we also had an arts assembly. The Dance Conservatory put on a performance in October. So the other points of pride, these are just smiles and pictures taken throughout the year. And I guess I just want to acknowledge, too, we had some donations. Our staff got together and wondered what we could do on the 30th and beyond to kind of take back our building and to light it up. And so we hosted a night called Light Up OHS. We got donations from community and throughout the state with lights, and we had about 700 kids and staff members come to the building to decorate and just to be together. We did chains, put lights up in classrooms and around the hallways just to decorate our school. It was a great way for us to come together and just have fun together. As I leave you tonight, I put some notes together because, as I said, it's really, really hard to encapsulate everything that goes on at OHS on a daily basis, and it's been just an honor for me to serve alongside of some of the most dedicated and strong colleagues and students in my career. Board, I want you to know that we have good days. We have great days. And we also sometimes we have rough days. But I want you to know that no matter the day, whether it's good, great, or rough, the support and the love that I see between students, between staff and students is unmatched in any building that I've ever been in. It's nothing short of extraordinary, and I want you to know how proud I am and how proud you should be of every student who walks through that door in the morning, every staff member that comes to work every day, every parent that comes and drops off homework or shoes. It is a great, great place to be, and I welcome you to come visit us, and I'd love to show you around and take you to see some of these amazing things that are going on. I was told once never to apologize for my tears, and I'm not. But I cry, and these tears are of joy and of pride and of gratitude to an amazing community of learners. So, thank you.
Thank you, Daisha.
My team's here if you have any questions.
Anybody have any questions for Daisha or her staff?
I just want to make a comment.
Yes.
It was a great presentation and great to see, you know, as an Oxford High School graduate myself, I take a lot of pride in our district and where it's come. I left town and came back, and my daughter graduated last year, so great job and great work to everyone that's in that building.
Anybody else? To all the staff members that were involved in whether it's a state tournament or county meet, anything like that, to bring others from outside Oxford to Oxford, thank you. It's important that people from outside Oxford get to see the resiliency of this town, the strength of our people, and they'll get a chance to do that, and I'm sure you'll make that building look as good as it's ever been, so I appreciate that. Thank you very much. Okay. Any other questions for Daisha? Thank you, Daisha. Superintendent's report. Vicki?
Yes, thank you. Just an information item, as you know from my presentation to you at the last meeting, we reorganized and brought back 2 positions into our communications department. We reorganized the positions a bit from what they were before into a communications director and a communications specialist. I wanted to give you tonight the position descriptions for those 2 jobs so you can kind of see how the duties are split up, and just repeat that it is within the budget. You had 2 positions prior, and we are returning to that 2-position office. So that's just FYI. And that started this week, and we have the posting up, and hopefully we'll get the 2nd position in soon.
Quick question. So the communication director is full? That's when we moved?
That is where we moved Danny Stabletsky.
Okay.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Very good. Any questions? No? Anybody? Okay. Thank you. And congratulations to Danny. I can tell, are you here? Oh, sorry, I'm looking right at you. Sorry.
She just
maybe I
got
should put these
promoted.
back
She
on.
best be here.
That's right. I can tell you, I've watched her work tirelessly, and it's very well deserved. So thank you for the work that you do, and thank you for the work that you're going to continue to do.
I agree.
Okay. Item B.
Yes, thank you. So as also mentioned at the last meeting, each month we want to bring for you a progress report on where we're going with the recovery plan.
Yes.
I'm going to stop calling it a 3-year recovery plan, because as we are monitoring it and assessing it and managing it, it is real clear it's going to be a living plan, and the only thing that's going to happen is it'll probably be amended and readopted as the years go on. Tonight, we have action steps that are going to be reported to you from several different areas of the plan. So I've given you a workbook. This was so fun for me because I'm a teacher, and there's nothing more you want to give your class than a workbook and an assignment. So your assignment is to keep track of the action steps we're reporting to you, and as well as further questions that you might have or anything that you want to come forward. So we will keep this. Now, do you have this? Yes, okay. We will keep this in front of you each time that we come, and you also have it electronically. So without any further ado from me, because, you know, I can ask for the reports, but I'm not going to be the one giving them to you, just so we're clear on that. It just comes under my item on the agenda. I would like to have, how are you starting, Todd, with Dr. Christine Russell, or are you going to open it up and introduce your team? I'll start. Okay, thank you.
Before you start, Todd, just for the board, this is a lot, would other board members would agree, this is very much like our guide for our superintendent evaluation. So it's something that's a living document that we refer to on an ongoing basis so that we can make sure that the steps that are put in place, not just to monitor a superintendent, and the superintendent would evaluate their employees and all the way down to building principals. This is something for us to make sure that all these things that we have documented here are being followed and kept track of. So this is a great report, and this is something that I think is going to be very beneficial, not just for us, but for the district.
Thank you, Dan. So as we get started, each of you have your packet in front of you. I would recommend turning to your SEL section, the social emotional learning section. That's where we're going to be spending most of our time this evening, going through our action steps and strategies. So that'll make it easier on you guys. I always like Cliff Notes in school. So anyways, this is going to be a shared presentation. We've got Dr. Christine Russell here, who is our multi-tiered systems of support coordinator, who is going to be speaking to us regarding some of our slides and content. Myself, and then Mr. Stephen Wolf, Assistant Superintendent of Secondary Education, is joining us as well. This plan, as has been mentioned, has the potential to go well beyond 3 years. 3 years is a benchmark year for evaluation, definitely, as we go forward. Deep analysis and after the 3 years will mark the year that the last class that experienced the tragedy at the high school has actually graduated from the high school. So as we move forward, we want to keep that in mind. Please be mindful that today's update is an overview of the current work that several people are doing across the district. Implementation varies oftentimes by buildings based on the priority of needs in that building, and to be sure that we have sustainable change that directly impacts our student success. So we're constantly looking at that. As we go on here, social emotional learning is really the focus of one of the 5 areas of our 3-year recovery plan. The 5 areas regarding social emotional learning that we really focus on as the core competencies are self-awareness, self-management, responsible decision-making, relationship skills, and social awareness. Most of this is probably common knowledge to all of you from past discussions, presentations, but we wanted to definitely put that up there. And as we go forward, the next slide shows our first goal in that section of the plan. Our action steps and strategies, we'll just walk through them. So reviewing existing SEL and anti-bullying curriculums and evaluate our needs, considerations for additional and different resources. As we look at that, we're in the process of reviewing with Hanover Research 6 different SEL and anti-bullying curriculum resources. While evaluating these, we're looking at needs and considerations for additional and different resources as that action step states. Currently, the 6 particular resources we're looking at are the Michigan Model for Health. We're also looking at Move This World, PATHS program, Positive Action, Second Step, and Trails to Wellness are the 6 programs we're looking at. As you move to the next action step in Goal 1, it's aligning curriculum with Early Childhood Center and preschool programs. We are currently looking at our early childhood programs, which is 0 to 5 years old, and Ms. Russell is actually actively working with aligning the platform specific to MTSS and PBIS with our 0 to 5 programs over there, which is really, I've got to say that That is highly unusual to be working with our youngest kids and aligning all of our platforms through elementary. So initially we were DK through 12. Bringing in that component is just, it's pretty awesome. So yeah, we're stepping forward with that work. As we look on, we are continuing to provide weekly lessons. Our family school liaisons are providing weekly classroom social emotional learning lessons using the Second Step resource, which is an evidence-based and research-informed resource that we're using across all elementary schools. So each of our elementary schools has had those weekly lessons being provided by our FSLs. And again, our restorative practices and anti-bullying coordinator, Bridget Bittner, in partnership with Oakland Schools, continues to train all district staff in restorative practices to exceed the state mandate specific to restorative practices relative to discipline. As Ms. Beasley stated, our OHS staff had actually all staff training and completed training the entire high school staff, which in Oakland County is somewhat unprecedented. So great accomplishment by Bridget Bittner and our Oakland Schools consultants there. I will say that we are working with training not only our high school staff, but we're trying to build restorative communities in classrooms and empowering our staff through the restorative practice model and framework. Therefore, we not only have 100% of our Oxford High School staff trained, but we've got approximately 30% of our middle school staff trained and 34% of our elementary staff trained in restorative practices. So this is used both as an instructional tool in the classroom and to resolve conflict and restore relationships with students. Yeah, Dan.
Quick question, because I think it has a perception of what restorative practice is. It's more of a conflict resolution. Would you say, how does it line up with conflict resolution between maybe two students, or help explain that a little bit to us and to the community, how closely related those two thoughts are?
Well, that is one component of restorative practices. So the platform of restorative practices has actually been around for ages, but it's really been adapted to restorative justice is another term you might know it by. And so it is used to resolve conflict in schools, and that's called restorative conferencing. And there's actually a kind of a metrics that you go through with questions where you work with two individuals or groups that perhaps have maybe there's been harm done in the school setting. And so it's a process in order to repair the harm that's done and restore that individual to the community. So in that regard, it would be similar to a traditional conflict resolution program that you mentioned. However, the restorative practice framework goes well beyond that in creating a restorative community and a platform to use in the classroom as well as beyond. So we also currently we're using at the high school a reentry plan. And so when a student's been removed from the high school for suspension or something of that nature, we've created a restorative process to give them a reentry plan to come in. And then we identify, do they have a trusted adult in the building? And then we create a plan going forward for their success. So any student that's been suspended, we actually use a restorative process to bring them back into the building rather than just having them return to school like nothing happened. So we try to restore them back to the school community. Yeah.
Thank you.
Sure. Mr. Wolf's next.
Thank you, Mr. Barles. Good evening. Wanted to touch base just a little bit regarding within the first goal, action step of alignment of social emotional competencies to IB approaches to learning. That's a lot of acronyms there. At the secondary level and in the MYP program, we have our approaches to learning, and that's just the way in which we go about conducting our instruction. So the methodology behind it. In the classroom, that could be similar from a social studies or what we call individuals and society class, all the way to a math class to any even elective class. So it's not the content per se, it's the approach in which we engage our learners. And a significant number of those ATLs that I'll go through here in a second do align up really well and nicely with CASEL's SEL competencies, some of which have the exact same name, And this infographic was created in our district just to help folks, including our SEL committee, which I'll touch base on later on in the presentation, to see those connections and better understand that SEL growth isn't something that will take place necessarily in just a 30-minute or 50-minute advisory class. We want to make sure that in our instructional classes, our core classes, our electives, that we're also building that social emotional capacity of our learners by the way in which we engage them in those lessons. And so we have our relationship skills, we have responsible decision-making, social awareness, self-management, and self-awareness as those CASEL competencies. And within those, you can see placed some of those ATLs, like being a risk taker, being open-minded, being reflective, balanced, etc. So it does lend itself really well with that language, and that language is pretty important, really K-12 across the board. That way we're speaking the same talk and we're on the same page with both staff to staff as well as our teachers to our students. So this is work we've done recently in our SEL committee, again, that I'll touch base on a little bit more. These are up and down and not left and right. It's down. Okay. And here's another great infographic just to kind of simplify that framework of MYP, which is our middle years program, and what we create as our approaches to learning, our ATLs. And so we've had quite a bit of help from Oakland Schools with our SEL implementation, and it doesn't just happen in the advisory class, again, that we'll discuss. We've had the chance to bring in Oakland Schools consultants to sit down with our English department, with our math department, pull up their unit of studies, how we write our curriculum, where we place them, and look at those ATLs in each unit to say, what does this look like in a history class or in a math class? How do we build our students' communication skills in a math class per se? And that, again, just enhances some of the SEL work that we're doing right now. I'm going to pass it back over to Mr. Barlas.
So with Goal 1, action step and strategies, implementing and enhancing current positive behavior intervention and support programs. PBIS is continuing to be implemented district-wide. Each of our building teams continue to develop their PBIS implementation. At the elementary level, we've provided 2 PBIS team development days. Actually, we had our elementary teams together this afternoon. Dr. Russell spent some great time with those teams, reviewing what's going well, creating action plans for how we're moving forward with that at each of our elementary buildings. So it was an exciting time. It was great to see the energy amongst our PBIS teams for each of those elementary buildings. At Oxford Middle School, our Calm Classroom combines the power of mindfulness with the research-backed benefits of brain breaks to empower our middle school students to really manage their self-regulation. So when they need a break, they're able to use that Calm Classroom approach and manage themselves, self-regulate. So that continues here at the middle school. And then in regards to adding staff additions on that last action step on this slide, we've added 2 FSLs, family school liaisons. We've had an addition of 3 counselors, 1 at Oxford Middle School and 2 at the high school. We've added 1 school social worker, a recovery coordinator, an Oxford High School assistant principal, and the director of student services and wellness position. Those are all positions that have been added. I will speak to our SEL summer activities. We've had over 1,200 students participate in our summer activities. We had over 1,000 elementary students, about 120 of our middle school students, which included our 6th graders who were incoming. We had 100 high school students. They did Zoo to You, the reptile show. There's a list of different activities around our summer SEL work. These were all enrichment activities. We also want to offer a thank you to Ms. McDonough, who also had, along with a group of community members, had students engaged in enrichment activities last summer as well. So, yeah, it was great to have some community partnership there. These district activities and programs will continue this summer as well, is our intent. And with that, I will introduce Dr. Russell.
Thank you so much for having me here today. I have been asked to come tonight to speak a little bit about our screener that we're using within our school system to take a look at our student social, academic, and emotional health. We, as a district, have selected a screener in the same way that you would select a screener to look at academics, reading, and math, because we know how important it is for our kids to come into the classroom ready to learn, and their social and academic health is important in that as well. So Oxford has selected SABRS as the assessment. It's a social emotional, to look at the social emotional aspects of our students all the way from DK up to grade 12. And this stands for Social, Academic, and Behavior Risk Screener. We use this in combination with our other data, math and reading screeners, teacher input, course grades, attendance. We use all of that together to get a picture of how our students are doing, how ready they are for what's going to come within the curriculum, and to help to find ways to support them to be more ready. So the assessment tells us if there's anything in the social, emotional, or behavioral health areas that may hinder a student from being ready to learn. Questions are asked such as, is there a lot of distraction for the student when they're in the classroom? Are they coming prepared to the class? Are they getting along with others within the school environment? Those types of questions that help us know, because if a student is struggling socially and they're not connected in the school, as we heard earlier, we want kids that are involved in the after-school activities. We want them to be doing socially well. The better they're doing with that, the more they're going to be able to gather from the academics that we have within the environment. So this assessment helps us take a look at how we're doing. So I have some results here. There's two different assessments that are used, a screener that the teacher uses to give a picture of how students are doing, and then also students respond to a survey as well. What you see here are the results for our elementary, middle, and high school. With any screener that we're doing within a school environment, we're looking for at least 80% and hopefully more of our kids to be doing well in that initial screener. So this is our fall initial screener. When more than 80% of our kids are doing well, that means that we likely have the amount of resources in a school to support those kids that may need something extra. So when you look across our elementary, middle, and high school, we are well above an area where we know that we have healthy students and that we also then have enough resources to support kids who may need more. On these graphs here, you can see the percentage of students at each level, elementary, middle, and high school, who our teachers are reporting are doing well with their social and academic and emotional risk screeners. And then you also see the number at the bottom of kids that translates to, what number of kids across our district our teachers are reporting are doing really well, and what numbers may need some additional help. And these, to me, are numbers that in any system, and especially a system like Oxford, where we have already prioritized things like family school liaisons, adding additional counselors, we have the resources and the supports to support those kids that teachers are saying may need a little bit more. We'll talk about the exact supports in a couple slides here, but these numbers tell us that we overall have really healthy kids. This is then the additional assessment that's done in middle and high school, where we ask students to rate themselves as well. It's important to get both the teacher and the student perspective. Teachers see students throughout the day and know a lot about how those kids are doing, but kids also know a lot about themselves as well. They know what's going on that they might not let others see, and we need to be asking them to tell us about how they're doing as well so we can best support them. So at middle and high school, you see our results here as well, and the numbers that translates for a number of kids that may need some additional support. Again, we are feeling like the numbers that we're having are really positive, that the things we're doing for all kids, like social emotional lessons, our PBIS work, having counselors and family school liaisons available to all is really helping and supporting our students, and we know that we can get that extra support to kids that need it. So What we have here is just a quick look and a quick overview of some of the general supports that we're providing and things that we're doing with this data after we collect it. So at that tier 1 level, school-wide supports all the way to the left, we use this data to help support our PBIS model. We make changes to what we're doing and the way we're teaching kids within our school environment when we see that there may be some need within our screener that we're doing for the whole school. It helps us to plan our social emotional lessons. So for example, if we had like a 4th grade where the teachers were reporting there's a number of kids who are just struggling socially, it's a tough group, they're not getting along, we can alter and change and put a lesson in earlier that helps teach how do we cooperate with friends. And we can change what we're doing to make sure we're addressing those needs for the whole grade level rather than waiting until just that lesson shows up 6 weeks from now. Let's do it now if our data tells us that we need that. We also can use this information to track changes in a school or in different grade levels or with specific students, and then monitor the overall health of what's going on in our schools. At a group level, so if we have some kids that are struggling a little bit, we can pull them into groups and do things like restorative or listening circles to help support them. We have small groups that can be run by family school liaisons, and we also can just give this information back to teachers so that part of our work can be to make sure our teachers are doing extra check-ins and extra relationship building with kids that are saying either through the teacher report or the student report that they need a little bit more, so that we're all a part of helping to support those kids get what they need. When we have kids that we know need that individual support, we can do individual check-ins with students, we can have individual time with our counselors or family school liaisons or social workers, and truly even our teachers, because we have some outstanding teachers here that really do wrap their hands around and their arms around those kids that need a little extra. Contact parents as needed and track their growth from the supports that we're providing. Thank you so much.
Can I ask you a quick question?
Sure.
Okay. So tell me about the process, once a student takes this, once the student takes the SABRS evaluation, what is the process of, where does that information go? Are they taking it on their Chromebook, and then that information goes into FASTR? Like, how does that information get shared with staff so that other people can see those results?
Yeah, the process is very similar to all the other screeners that we do in reading and math, which is kind of nice for a student because it's the same, I log into the same piece on my Chromebook
On their Chromebook.
and have different questions that come up that are related to my academic, social, and behavioral functioning. Teachers are able to look at that really immediately, same day that students take those results. They're able to look back and see how their own students are doing. Additionally, at each school, there are times set aside to do a data dig with support, because we don't want teachers just doing that on their own. We also want them looking at this data along with either their family school liaison, their principal or leadership, or their counselors. So for example, this week, tomorrow, our middle school is taking a look during, or maybe they did on Monday, this week. The data was all collected last week, and they sat down, each team of teachers, like 6 gold, 7 blue, sat down with a counselor or family school liaison or a principal and looked through their data to decide what else can we do to help support these students. Additionally, for example, at the middle school, the counselor group does that on their own as well, even before the teachers see that, to help identify who might need some immediate support. So there's lots of different layers of checking in and using that data to make decisions to make sure kids are supported.
How
Dr.
many
Reese?
times a year are you guys issuing this? I might have missed it.
No, that's fine. At the elementary level, they're currently doing that 3 times a year, fall, winter, and spring. At the middle and high school level, historically, we've been working to do that 2 times a year, fall and winter, and I believe that's what we're continuing this year as well. So then kind of like each semester, you get that data and information, and at the elementary, it's kind of like each trimester, you're getting that data and information.
Is this your first year using it at the high school?
No. This is our 3rd year, but each year it has been 2 times the last 2 years, once because of COVID and another time because of the school tragedy. We used other data pieces last year to check in on kids after the tragedy.
So,
I'm sorry if I missed it. Oh,
Hang on. James?
Yep. So this is my first time seeing it for this year, for the fall and stuff. I'm just curious historically, over the last couple of years that we've given it, what are our trends? Are we trending up, trending down? Is it different? I mean, obviously, the last few years we've had lots of different things going on and stuff. So I'm just curious historically where when we started, you know, and maybe it's something that we can get later, but I'd like to see it, you know, like last year this time compared to this year and stuff. Granted, Again, circumstances are different, but not to put you on the spot, I didn't know if you had
No,
that
yeah.
or knew if we're in a good word trend or not with all the new supports that we put in with family liaison people and social workers and such.
I think you're definitely right that each year, the last few years have been just such different years. So it's hard to talk about an overall trend, but one thing I can say is last year, when we came back after COVID, all of our buildings tried to do this data just a little bit earlier than normal because we wanted to check in on how our kids were doing right away. We've had just so many things going on with kids out, kids in, so much sickness. How are we doing social emotionally? And what we found every time we have done this assessment within this district is that our overall information is showing that our kids are very healthy based on the data that we have here and because of some of the work that we're doing at that tier 1 level. And then we're always swooping in and working to support those kids that need a little bit more. So the data that you're seeing here is very close to the numbers that we've had in the past so that we can look at that a little bit closer together at some point for sure.
And then my only other question I was going to ask was on the student survey stuff. What is, obviously everybody gets it, but what is our response rate of who answers it, like percentage-wise across the student population?
Yeah, so all of our buildings do a ton of work to make sure that we're as close to 100% as possible. At the elementary, we very likely hit that because they're in one classroom all day. The teacher knows if they weren't there for the assessment and gets that done within the next day or so. At the middle and high school level, I help give reports to the administration about which kids are left, who hasn't done this yet, who might have been sick, maybe a classroom that missed it. And we work and work and work tirelessly to get as close to that as possible. I don't have the exact numbers, but there's like weeks of just regular check-ins to make sure we've gotten as
Okay.
many of the kids as possible because we don't want to miss any student
All
in
right,
this data.
thank you.
Mike, did you have, no? Amanda?
Yeah, just real quick, did you say that counselors and teachers have access to this at any time for any of their students?
Yeah, counselors have the entire building and teachers have all the kids that are rostered to them, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Anybody else? Mary?
Thank you. And thanks for the data. I think this is going to be really important that we're continuing to track this now that we've put in a lot of extra supports. I'm just thinking about the future and future financing, and we want to be sure that we can continue to support this. And I'm interested in seeing what our changes, we're making for these students. So this is a lot to kind of we're retraining teachers in a different way to look at things, and and they're all professionals, and I think it's really great that everybody's committed to doing this, just like when we brought in the IB. Everybody speaks the same language. The elementary school kids are coming home speaking the same language, and so I think that's great, the dedication of the staff too, and the commitment to the program.
Absolutely.
Looking forward to seeing continuing good results.
Absolutely.
Thanks.
So let me answer that financial piece. Dr. Markovich and myself have been having a conversation, I don't know, a couple times now, 2 or 3 times. And hopefully this isn't a surprise to Sam and his group, but we're going to roll out a 3 to 5 year projection of our finances rather than a year to year, just so that we can make sure that we're looking far enough down the road that we allocate the money so that we're not losing these positions because of finances down the road. In the past, we used to do it, like I said, a year to year. We feel as though it's important to do a 3 to 5 year projection. So that's going to be a little bit different. But it's necessary given the fact that we've got a lot of new positions.
Thank you, Christine. Nice job with the Sabres, too. So Sabres, Christine works tirelessly with our staff, with training, with rolling it out, with making sure that we've got our students grouped appropriately, identifying those intervention groups and whatnot for kids that are identified. So great work. Thank you for presenting. Now, with goal number 3, I want to speak to Steve is actually going to speak to our committee work on the next slide. However, we have been implementing listening sessions, and we've done that both at the community level as well as the building level, and those have been very successful. We've provided listening sessions at the elementary as well as the secondary, and we've provided listening sessions with our staff. So it's encouraging when Dan had asked about restorative practices and how it goes beyond just conflict resolution. Our staff, we offered them the voluntary opportunity at the beginning of the year when they came back to participate in a listening session, Restorative Circle. And we weren't sure exactly how many would participate, so we had an alternate activity in that welcome back time. And I think we had about 85% of our staff participate, which was phenomenal at the high school. And then most recently on the 16th, when we did our full day PD, we started the day out with an opportunity for staff to participate. Again, voluntary, we had an alternate activity, and we had 100% participation in that staff listening circle, which was amazing. The feedback that we got was that that listening circle opportunity for our staff was probably one of the most valuable things that we'd provided to them this year. And it's just a safe space to come together and to share. So those listening circles are valued, and we're trying to embrace them and schedule them at more of a routine time for not only our students, but for our staff to use those as a resource. We're also exploring and developing our SEL Youth Advisory Council with our students at both the middle school and high school level. We've been working with the National Center for School Safety with regards to that, and reviewing different frameworks in order to implement a youth advisory council. And we think that that is going to be really valuable going forward, to have our youth really leading amongst their peers the concepts of what are the needs within the school, what are their needs amongst their peers, suicide awareness, how do we get that information out, how do we do some psychoeducational work with our kids in areas that we need to. We have done a number of different activities to increase their awareness. We've had lunch activities where we've brought the NOCC in to do suicide awareness with our kids during lunch at both the high school to middle school. We've done No Vape November with our kids just to increase their awareness of those high-risk activities that our kids are engaged in. We've done Drink This, Not That over at the high school prior to winter break, just to increase their awareness of making good choices. And then this Friday, I believe we're coming back in and doing some more suicide awareness work at lunch with our kids. So in addition to that, we're hoping that spills over into some formal youth advisory work, and the youth will take that on as far as to be able to connect. I've gotten feedback from some of our youth on our mental health committee that it was corny, that it was, this, that, the other thing, but they're talking about it, which is the important thing. And that was really the purpose of having some of those activities there. And the tables we had set up at lunch had kids around them constantly for all three lunches. The kids were engaged, they were involved, even though my own kids would say that was corny, but they're talking about it. That's what we were going for. So.
Okay, thanks, Todd. So wanted to wrap up by covering the last action step of our third goal here, which involves our SEL committee. Anita and I had the pleasure of meeting for a second time just yesterday with our SEL committee. We have approximately 36 members and a few other folks who've popped in and have joined us, and that includes 2 middle school students, 2 high school students, 1 elementary parent, 2 middle school parents, and 2 high school parents, all representing different and multiple levels across the district. We have staff who serve in different capacities: teachers, counselors, school psychologists, excuse me, social workers, family school liaisons, as well as building level and district level administrators. And so that is by design. We had reached out last year asking for folks who were passionate, enthusiastic about SEL, and folks who also wanted to know a little more about what initiatives the district was taking so that they can represent their group as a student, as a parent, as a staff member, help give a voice in some of the decisions difficult decisions that Anita, Todd, and myself are making in terms of our SEL supports and curriculum. And so our first meeting was in November. and our second one, as I mentioned, just yesterday. And so we've taken the time at the start here to really build the understanding and the capacity of our committee members so they really understand what SEL is, some of the background and history behind it, and then also, most recently yesterday, how it connects and aligns to other things we've been doing in the district and have a stronger focus on recently, such as MTSS, all these acronyms I know our board is learning, PBIS, anti-bullying, restorative practices, et cetera. And so a lot of these committee times together are a lot of working sessions where they're working in groups, giving feedback, collaborating, and then reporting out their learning, their understanding, as well as feedback to Anita, Todd, and myself. And that helps guide some of the decisions we're making and some of the conversations we're having with others who are supporting us along this journey. So they're a great group of people, awesome parents and awesome students who've joined us. They're very excited to be there. Some of the students may be excited to miss some of their class time. Teachers, not so much, because they have to go back to their classes and try to catch up on everything they missed with their students. But it's an exciting group to be with, and I think it's giving Todd, Anita, and myself some more energy and motivation behind what it is we're doing. We also have some outside support from a group called Hanover Research. And so Hanover Research is an organization that works with various businesses as well as K-12 districts and educational groups. And so they are, just as their name indicates, a research company who helps evaluate different programs, different curriculum that a school might be interested in based on what our needs are. And so we've had monthly meetings, even a few more squeezed in between those monthly meetings to better understand what is it that we're looking for with our learners, where are our needs, where are our priorities, what additional resources do we have, and then they go in the background and do a lot of the legwork to get their own research, identify other third-party groups who've done their own research around different SEL curriculums and different supports. That way we have a very robust and well-rounded snapshot of what is available. And when we couple that and align that with what our committee has referenced, what they believe their stakeholder needs are as a student or as a parent or as a staff member, it gets us a good idea of creating what our actual measurables are going to be with this SEL work. In other words, part of their time is around the implementation of it as well as the metrics. How are you going to assess what those needs are that you've identified and measure as to whether the programs, the supports, and everything throughout the school, even going back to the ATLs I mentioned earlier in our core classes, how do you know that's having an impact on students' SEL growth? And so that's part of the support they're going to provide us that we're really excited for. Things that I know Anita, Todd, and I are really passionate about and have experience with, but having an organization to do a lot of that work for us on the side is of great assistance for us. So we're going to be presenting some of those curriculum resources that Todd mentioned a few moments ago. I think he named off about 6 or 7 of those. Right now, we currently have Second Step being used at the elementary level, and we're going to further enhance those lessons at the middle school and high school. In the secondary level, we've already have begun building those SEL lessons, which we've aligned directly to the standards and competencies that CASEL has released and the ones that the state of Michigan as well has adopted. And we've had help doing that from quite a few folks, especially 2 from Oakland Schools, Julie McDaniel and Steve Whitmer. They have a background in SEL. They have a background and are certified trauma-informed instructional trainers. And they are also IIRP, which is the acronym for Restorative Practice Certified. And so they have a very well-rounded background that helps us build and align those lessons directly to the standards. They've been fantastic, and they're the same folks who at the secondary high school level have met with our math teachers, our English teachers, to look at their units of study or their lesson plans to say, how do you build the communication skills, the relationship skills, which are really those ATLs in your core content areas. And so they've been outstanding. What the SEL curriculum that we aim to adopt, and we're targeting to implement it next school year, at the middle school and high school and revisit and reevaluate what we're doing at the elementary with Second Step is to enhance and enrich the work we've started this year. So we've built these lessons. We've gotten support from Oakland Schools with a great background in this work to build lessons that are aligned to those competencies. And along the way, we are adopting a curriculum resource to embed into those lessons with curriculum, of course, as Todd mentioned, that is research-based and has evidence behind its effectiveness. So we're excited about this work. We have 2 more SEL committee meetings scheduled for this year, and we plan to continue those at least for the next 2 years, if not beyond. And I believe that concludes the SEL goal update for us. Do we have any questions or comments?
Any, Mary?
Wow. That was a lot. That was, I'm just amazed at how our administrative staff keeps learning and our teachers keep learning, and we're all focused on student achievement. I think this is absolutely phenomenal. That was a great presentation. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else?
Yes, thank you. I'm impressed myself. And, I've had 32 years as a superintendent, so it's hard to impress me, but I am constantly impressed at what I see happening here. And this seems like a lot, and it is a lot, but you've only heard a little piece. I know that people always wonder what we're doing with threat assessments, and that's going to be coming. That's going to be part of the what we're reporting to you down the road after I told you we're accumulating data and the Navigate 360. But what you hear tonight and what you're going to hear when we do the mental health section of the plan is all the preventative data. If we get these supports that you've heard about today to these kids when they need them, at the early grades or when they first start becoming at risk, you don't have many incidences of a threat assessments over here, nor do you have many incidences of destructive or self-destructive kinds of behavior. So what you're hearing now is the prevention side of all the work that we do relative to getting kids to be their best, be able to handle this complicated life we live in today as best they can. And I know what else is coming to you. I know that we're going to be bringing you data from those PBIS reports that we're getting on students. I know we're going to be bringing you data on the MTSS kinds of interventions we're doing. And I know we're going to be bringing a lot more to you. So thank you for getting us started. It was a wonderful start, and we're doing well. I'm glad the students are participating, 90% or above. I'm glad that the teachers are participating, 100%. You have, everyone in this district is all in on this, and that's what's going to make it work. So thank you.
Anybody else? I think it's important to note that this is a foundation for this district. This is something that we look at and we look towards, just as we would do, like I was saying earlier, we do with evaluations. This is an evaluation of the entire district from top to bottom as far as how we reach students, how we understand the complexities of being a kid today. It's difficult. I think if we can't acknowledge that, then we're not tuned into what's going on. So that's important, and this isn't just this isn't just something that was put together in a week, 2 weeks. This is an ongoing process, and it's not going to stop. We're going to keep, as Dr. Markovich said, we're going to have different steps as we go forward. So I'm looking forward to the next report. Anything else on that? Everybody good? Okay. Okay, Board of Education matters. We have a discussion about our high school improv field trip request.
As our presenter is coming forward to make this request for you, I would like to just ask you to consider, as you listen, whether or not you might be comfortable approving this trip with a motion tonight rather than waiting 2 weeks. And of course, we wouldn't want you to do it if you're not comfortable. But if you are, there are parents and kids just anxious to get going with fundraising and all sorts of other things. And unfortunately, this trip request kind of got lost in the December movement that was going on. And so I just ask you to give that a consideration if you're comfortable with the itinerary, which has changed since the board questions came forward on that itinerary. So who's going to speak? Our lovely friend and...
She might want to, but... Thank you. But I'm going to speak instead. I'm Dana Brewer. I am the director of the Dance Conservatory. I also teach language arts. And I am a member of our musical team, which my key role is choreographer. So thank you again for letting us have the stage. It is a big show, and it's going to be really cute. These kids are hilarious. So thank you for having us tonight. And this is Bean. She's one of our therapy dogs, so I thought she might want to come and meet you all tonight. And she's going to be laying here. I don't know if you could hear her snoring in the back. I woke her up because it was being a little rude. It might have been him too. So I want to start by saying the reason I do what I do today and have found my passion in life is because I went on a trip when I was a kid on a trip to Chicago with NHS, where I got to see Phantom of the Opera for the first time and be in the big city because I'm from Memphis. I don't know if you guys know Memphis, Michigan. It's just down the road, but still most people don't know it. So being in a big city was a big deal to me, and it really fostered this love of travel and theater and all things performing arts in me that brought me right where I am today, and that's something I want to give to my kids, to my students. So that's something as a dance conservatory director, we do a lot of amazing things within our community and within our state, but getting to take them out and to do something really exciting and open their eyes to that aspect of things is really important to me and important to them. I'm doing this in conjunction with Leo Humbach, who is our choir director, and also Debbie Brown, who is our speech teacher. So we did change a few things on the itinerary, and we'll talk about some of the key things that we're doing. And honestly, the purpose in these next couple slides just kind of reiterate what I just said. So,
Let me just interrupt 1 minute,
Sure.
because in your packet, you may be looking at the old itinerary.
oh yeah,
And so make sure that you don't grab the
This is
first
the new one.
You look at the, yes, the revised one. Well, no, not this, this. I'm talking about this itinerary, and we've emailed you a new one, so the items that changed on here, the Second City, let me just go through this for a minute. The Second City is specific to students only, and that came in the email that Angela sent you yesterday, I believe. There will be a tour of Chicago, but it will not be the Untouchables tour. There will be a lunch at the Rainforest Cafe, not at Ed DeBevick's. And the dance dinner cruise is for high school students only. They are kind of blocked off. No alcohol, and they are restricted to one section, one level, actually, one whole level of the cruise ship. So those are the changes or the explanations that do not appear. This is the old packet. Okay? Thank you.
Thank
Now
you.
go ahead.
no problem. So this just really encompasses what I just said. We pride ourselves in being a school who gives our students a world-class education. So part of that is giving them something that they take away with them long after they leave the building, and sometimes getting them out of the building to have those experiences. We want them to walk away as representatives of our district and of our community, and people who have a very well-rounded education. And I'm going to kind of skip ahead to a couple of the key things that we're going to do. One of my things that I'm really excited about is that tilt thing where they dip you out over the city over glass. So we're going to take them to some of those quintessential Chicago locations. But the workshop at Second City is something that professional actors get to do. They go there for improv training and for musical training. So our kids get to take these workshop classes that professionals take. And they have actually a choice between two. One of them is more musical oriented and one of them is more acting oriented. So there'll be 2 sessions with our kids. Safety is something as a mom, and by the way, my daughter is going on this trip with us. I'm a mom of one of the kids in our community, and she's in my program. And so something involving safety, if I weren't right there with her, is something I'd want to know a lot about. And I was really excited to hear that there are security guards rather at night in the hall. They have 2 that are specified to us. So we know that the kids are safe in their rooms at all times. They report to us in the morning if anything out of the ordinary happened. They're also with us as chaperones at all times. There's only going to be 6 or 7 kids per chaperone. And these are kids that we know really well. We spend a lot of time in the fine arts with our kids, sometimes over the course of several years. So these really are, when I say our kids, I am talking about my own kid, but these are my kids too, and the other teachers feel the same way. So they're very much under our wings and in buddy groups all the time. And again, that was something that was really important to me to know. The group that we are going with is Bob Rogers. And it is a company that has been in place for over 40 years. So this is what they do, is student trips. The cost of it is just under $1,000 for the kids, and that includes all of those things on the itinerary and their hotel stay, the travel, and also 2 of their big meals. And obviously with a little bit less people in a room, that will go up. We need to get going on fundraising. We've actually already been doing different fundraising because we do some fundraising as part of what we do anyway. But once they know they are in fact going on a trip, that needs to kick into a lot higher gear. My favorite thing is actually those like bottle drives, returnable drives, which instead of kids having to go to Grandma and Aunt Sarah over and over saying, will you pay money for this? It gives them the responsibility of going and getting things on their own and getting the money back. And it's a lot more lucrative, honestly. And then once they get going on that more heavy-duty fundraising, Melissa Williams and the teachers will be keeping track of their profits. So the last thing I want to say, before you have any questions, is this is a group of kids with my daughter being amongst them. I know these kids really well. And I'm not going to be a Daisha right now. I'm going to be Daisha right now. I've watched them have to lose trips over the years a lot lately, starting from in 8th grade when they wanted to go so badly to Mackinac Island together with choir, and that got taken away. And then there was a class trip to New York last year, and that got taken away. And so all of these things that they've been excited to do over the years and have looked forward to for years keep getting taken away. So it's just, it makes me really happy to be able to start giving them back those opportunities that they deserve. Dang it, I really did not mean to cry.
Any questions as we want to discuss? I'm glad that we've had some questions that came forward. The trip was revised a little bit. Is there anything over and above those revisions that we would like to discuss? Anybody? Sure.
Thank you for bringing this out. I love Chicago. I did the Tilt attraction, and it was kind of cool. My husband wouldn't do it. My kids and I did. I was really excited to see the trip to Second City. I have not been able to see the improv group this year, but I did get to see them last year, and it's amazing what these kids are doing. It's just fantastic, and what a great opportunity. So thanks for putting this together and making the adjustments, where we needed to make adjustments. And I love the aquarium. I love all these places. I love Chicago. Thank you. Thanks for putting it together.
You're welcome, thank you. I fully anticipate a lot of kids singing Under the Sea, singing as though we'll have just gotten off the musical while we're at the aquarium.
Anybody else? Amanda?
So thank you again for revising the itinerary. I would just like to, I don't mean to be a downer. I just want to maybe put out there, I'm not trying to tell you how to do your job or anything like that, but I think it's important that the parents and the students have realistic expectations for this trip. You know, it's different than Oxford. There's sirens all night.
Right.
There's loud noises. There's all sorts of things. So I just think, and I'm sure you are, but making it a point to have those conversations would probably be really helpful. So
Absolutely.
that you have a great time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Quick question, when we're discussing safety. We had security in the hotels. Will they be with you all during the trip throughout the day? Is that something that we've accommodated for?
I'm not sure if they're with us on the bus or not, because it is through the Bob Rogers group, like that
Okay.
is who the security is through. They're definitely in the hotel at night,
I'm sure
but
they're
I'm
at
not
the
sure if they're
hotel
with
at
us
night.
all
I
day.
would just like to know, maybe you can, 11 to
Yeah.
6, okay. I must have missed that.
I see it, I see it.
Okay. All right, I'm
We're
just,
not sending our own security, Oxford security.
no.
No,
it's through
however,
Bob
one of the
Rogers.
dads is a Lapeer police officer that's really wanting to go and be a chaperone. so
Well, that
might
would
kind of
make
end
me
up
feel
with
better,
that.
because, yeah, I just want to make sure that we have some sort of presence there. While Chicago is fun,
Yeah.
Chicago is still experiencing some difficulties, let's just
Sure.
phrase it that way. And I'll leave it at that, but as long as we're cognitively thinking about that portion of it, I'm good.
Absolutely.
What is the number of students again?
It'll be around 50. Let's see, there's the Brown, I think there are 8
So-
that are within the package.
1 to 6.
Yeah.
Right.
Which, we keep saying we're a seasoned group between besides Debbie Brown, Dave Brown, who is quite the presence himself, is going. He'll be intimidating. But we keep saying we're a seasoned group taking them, which is one way of saying we're all getting older, but also we've all done a lot of traveling with kids. So a lot of them have been in city situations with kids many, many times.
Okay.
Which is nice.
Okay, we good?
Well,
If-
we can make a motion.
We
if
can
you
make a
want.
motion, and then we'll see where that goes, and then,
Well, we don't have to, but we can. But I'll make a motion.
do you have, there's the motion right there if you want it, just in case we were,
I'm happy to make the motion. All right, so let me see. All right. I move to approve the Oxford High School Improv Choir Field Trip to Chicago, April 28th, 2023 through April 30th, 2023, as supported. Or as presented, sorry.
as presented. Is there support? Amanda? Any discussion?
Yeah.
Mike?
Just for a point of clarification, I think this is the correct agenda. I was looking because I think it's Hard Rock, or maybe you don't. Maybe.
I think
But
it's Hard Rock.
because I don't, the issues that were brought up, I don't see, I think it's actually lunch at Hard Rock Cafe instead of the other.
Whatever the last thing was.
Rainforest Cafe. But yeah, so I think this is correct, and I just checked real quick to make sure that, so we knew what we were voting on. But I think this is the right one.
Okay, thank you, Mike. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Let the fundraising begin.
Thank you very much. Have a good night.
I think,
Buy some cookie dough.
I thought he was gonna stay the night here.
Very good.
Okay, item B. Your annual presentation. Katie Blazik, is Mr. Trotter here?
No, he had to take his kid to, did you guys get these?
Yes.
Perfect.
I think so.
Gotta take his daughter to horseback riding lessons.
Okay.
We believe that, I guess.
Let me make sure you got yours.
I have the travel club,
This is the travel club, right? Yeah.
correct. I don't know if you have all that. Who's gonna make it? You gonna make it? Okay.
It's not a slide, it's just a doc.
3 pages.
Yep. I got it. Oh, gosh, this is old. Well, good evening, and thank you for letting myself and Mr. Trotter, although he's not here, speak to you. I'm here with a request for the Oxford High School Travel Club. We are trying to get our club back off the ground. Obviously, COVID put a huge damper on things. So, I'm sorry, hold on one second. Grab my cheat sheet. So we're trying to get this going again. Our last trip was 2018, if you can believe that. And we went to 4 different countries in 12 days. Everywhere from, we started in Budapest, went to Vienna, Prague, and ended up in Krakow, where we were able to then visit Auschwitz, which was just a completely changing event for a lot of students, as well as myself and Mr. Trotter. So we've been looking at some different ideas. We kind of talked to some of what we call our legend students, who are usually students of former students who also have attended our program, and said, like, we want to kind of keep it, a little bit more succinct. We're not doing 4 countries. Wow, like we're a lot older now and things of that nature. We need to kind of tame it down. And these were some ideas that those kids threw out, and a lot of kids said, London. London would be a really cool place to go. And so we've been doing some work and looking through some things. And tonight I am bringing you our proposal for our London trip, which would take place next spring break, 2024. And we're looking to be able to travel from March 23rd through May 30th. So it may impact here or there, like maybe the Friday before spring break, but as of right now, we have it set a Saturday to a Saturday, so it won't impact the students missing class. So, they might try to pull the, I gotta get ready, go get my hair cut and stuff like that, which they sometimes do. But other than that, we're looking right now to go Saturday to Saturday. So the plan is to travel, to leave Detroit on the 23rd, and then we're going to kind of do 2 ends. So the beginning of the trip, we're going to start with an excursion out to Stonehenge and Windsor Castle and Bath. That's a full day trip. We have looked through a lot of different companies. We have put together our own itinerary, and we'll talk a little bit about that when we get to bids in a minute. But the idea is for them to be able to see not just London, but all the other cool stuff that's in the UK that's close within a day trip of London. So this day trip leaves very early in the morning and gets back pretty late in the evening, but we would see Stonehenge, Windsor Castle, and travel to Bath. Then we're going to spend 3 days in the city, and while we're there, you can see the different attractions. We don't have a specific itinerary yet, just because this is in the building stages, and so basically we're trying to get the okay so we can get this to the students. But basically, you can see some of the attractions: Parliament Square, Houses of Parliament, Churchill War Rooms, the London Eye, obviously Buckingham Palace and the changing of the guards, St. Paul's Cathedral, Westminster, and the list goes on and on and on.
We have done this a lot, so we're able to kind of see where things are at and put them all together. And then on the far end, before we come home, we're looking to take them again out of the city for the day to Leeds Castle, down to the cliffs of Dover, which I think would be a very cool experience for the students, and then to Canterbury. And then we'll have a travel day home. How our program works, if you look on the back page here, you can see that Mr. Trotter and I have been doing this since, oh my gosh. Well, actually, I started it first with another teacher during our May term at OHS. So I don't know what year that was, 2014 maybe, 15, something like that. So we've been doing this for a really long time, and we have traveled to Italy and then those other countries that we've talked about. We've done a lot of domestic travel. We've done New York City multiple times. We did DC in the Women's March. We've done Boston. So we've been around, and we have a pretty good grasp on this. Our students, the goal of our trips is not just a field trip. The goal of our trip is for our students to immerse themselves in the culture, to experience that culture, and our goal is by the end is if you're sitting on a public transit that someone will come and ask you for directions. That's the goal, that we blend in that much and don't stick out. So what we have done here in the past is, if you look at the back page, Mr. Trotter and I have become pretty good travel agents, and we are able to piece together our trips on our own. We did go out and get 2 other quotes as requested. You can see that we built our program first. We built our trip without seeing any other quotes. And when we compared them to the other 2 quotes that we received, we were pretty much in the ballpark. The difference is between us putting a trip together and a company putting a trip together is it's not a canned trip. We aren't taking 50, we're taking 8 to 10. And we become a family. There's no question we become a family when we do this. As a matter of fact, I still have a student that traveled with us to Italy in our first trip in like 2016. She sees me in the grocery store. She's like, "Travel mom." I'm like, "Hey, how you doing?" Right? So I mean, we've been doing this. We're travel mom and travel dad. So we definitely build a rapport with our students. But basically, what Jake and I do is we go through and we kind of talk to the kids a little bit, and you know, we have ideas. But if you're not confined to being stuck on a bus looking at the Big Ben through a window as it passes by at 25, 30 miles an hour, you get a much different experience. That's when you get immersed in the culture. That's when we can go to an Indian restaurant and actually experience authentic Indian food. That's when we can go and have an authentic fish and chips meal. And what's also important to keep in mind about our quote is our quote includes from the moment they step into Detroit Metro Airport to the moment they step out of Detroit Metro Airport, everything is covered. The only thing they're required to pay for on the trip is if they want to buy stuff. Every meal, all their lodging, all of the travel, the transportation in country, everything is covered in the cost of the trip. So it makes it a lot easier for the parents. If you look at both of the companies that we contacted, you'll notice that most of them only provide a breakfast and a dinner, and you're required to pay for your own lunch. I went on a trip like that with students and ended up by the end of the trip, because they had bought 55 sweatshirts, I had to pay for meals. And that's not fair. That's not fair to kids. And so when Mr. Trotter and I started putting this together a long time ago, we said everything will be covered. And so that is another important piece there, is that we're able to do that, and these companies can't do that, right? Another important thing to think about when you think about us tailoring this is, like I said, the kids are going to get really good at walking. They actually nickname us the Oxford Walking Club, because we usually put, we are out the door by 9 o'clock in the morning, and we usually get back by 9 o'clock at night, and we do use public transit to get around the city, but a lot of the city we see on foot. And so they realize that when they're ready to participate. A couple other things just to keep in mind. We don't obviously pay for their passports. They'll have to have their own passport in order to go because obviously we're going out of the country. As of today, when I looked on it, there is no COVID restrictions anymore to travel. They do not have to test. And if the website for the health department is accurate for the UK, they're no longer requiring that you have to be vaccinated. So that was an interesting change that I was not aware of. But that's something that I know with our life now with COVID, right, that I wanted to make sure that everyone was aware of. So I think that that's pretty much our presentation. Like I said, I don't have the specific details of every single day. As of right now, we know exactly, we kind of know the structure of what we want to do, but until we get, we want to have the approval and things before we start really digging into like, we're going to go here this day, and we're going to do this day, and we're going to do this day. But the things that are on the list of attractions are all within the city. So everything that's, we're doing in the city, we will be we'll get to by either foot or public transit, which if you've ever been to London before, they say you are actually able to eat off the floor in the tube because it's so clean. And that is a true statement. I've been on the tube, and literally if you spill something, the man that stands there says, "Excuse me, will you please pick that up?" Right? And they yell at you and tell you to clean it up immediately. So it's not like other public transits that you might think of from other places. The last thing that I just want to make sure that you are aware of is, like I said, we're looking at no more than 10 students. And so we do not use hotels on our trip. We like to use Airbnbs, and we make sure that we put together purchase a Airbnb that has the appropriate lodging for beds and things like that. And Mr. Trotter and I are always with the children at all times. We do each have our own separate bedroom, and the boys would obviously be with the boys and the girls will be with the girls, but we are all in the same house together. We eat breakfast together. We line up and wait for bathrooms together, and like I said, we just really become a family together, and that is something that we changed after our last trip. We did all Airbnbs, and it was fantastic. It was so easy. They were so helpful with us. The person that we have contacted for a quote for our Airbnb has already asked, can we get you airport travel, like travel from the airport to our Airbnb? So there's a lot of things that are really, really helpful when you work with these people. So that's really what we are hoping that you will take a look at. And if you have any questions, I would love to be able to answer any of those for you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Katie. Anybody have any questions? I know it's a long ways out, but this is a significant trip that they're going to have to be spending some time either fundraising themselves or saving themselves.
Are we I did not.
No, I don't.
Presentation,
This is presentation, and then if we want to, we can have a discussion. But I would say that we would probably want to have it on the agenda to be approved at least by the next meeting, which would be,
So definitely ask questions.
yes, it would be on the 14th of February.
So, will you have an itinerary by the 14th of February, or no?
I mean, we can put together like a mock one, but like I said, until, we literally just look at things and say like, okay, these are the things we're going to do today, and these are the things we're going to do today. But like, for example, when we were on the last trip, we had extra time, and the kids were like, can we go to Margaret Island? Yeah, let's go to Margaret Island, because it's such a small group. It doesn't require as much like finagling to be able to say like, no, we don't need a bus, we don't need these things. The other thing about going with a tour group, we're so small, we're going to end up on a tour with another school. And when we did that before, we were on a tour with a bunch of children that were at least 3 years younger than us from a prep school that were just nasty to our children. And so it really hurt our kids' tour because we were like, oh, we got to get back on the bus with those kids, you know? So if you would like to see kind of a mock-up of ours, we can definitely put that together for you. But like I said, it's really just, you know, if you look at that list of attractions, those are the these are the attractions that we will see. It's just going to be in what order that we see them in. So the stuff on the.
This is what you're going to see.
Yeah.
End of story.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah.
You just haven't,
We haven't actually gone through and said, like, today we're going to do this, 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 and this. Today we're going to do this, 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 and this.
and where you eat is kind of where you eat, just based on where you're at.
Right.
It's not,
So I
we're
was the
going-
foodie the last trip, and I actually called ahead and made a lot of those reservations. Believe it or not, Open Table is very prominent in Europe. So I had a lot of Open Tables set up. When we went to New York, we had already pre-ordered food at Shake Shack. So like we do those types of things so that that's already in place. And again, if you have 8 to 10 kids, it's not that hard to seat. When you're, you know, we're not talking about 50 people, so.
Okay, so I just have two concerns then. One, if we can have a mental health professional have eyes on the itinerary before, you know, just to avoid some situations potentially like the other one. And then the second thing is for Airbnb, what kind of contingency plan are you going to have? I know my experience with Airbnb here, and it may be different in Europe. We've been canceled on a few times because they have that right to cancel up to, you know, 7 days or 30 days or whatever the contract states. Do you have a built-in contingency plan?
Yeah,
or something
usually
like that?
what we do is we always pick the ones that are cancelable ourselves. So we always usually have another one on backup, and then, you know, once we get that final, like, yep, we're good, then we pull the other one out. Yep.
Great, thank you.
And we usually also try to, like, depending on, we'll try to book even a day out from when we're actually going to be there, so the kids we don't have to worry about dropping bags and all that kind of stuff. So, and this guy that we're talking to right now, that Mr. Trotter is talking to through Airbnb, actually he's willing to open his place way early and let us come in early, and they're so nice. Like, I mean, they're Brits. They're very nice humans. So, you're welcome.
Mary,
Thank you for the presentation. Can you tell us a little bit about the travel club in general?
Yeah.
Who are the kids? How do you get to be a member?
Yeah,
You know, things
so
like that.
we call it a club. It's a loose name. Really, it's just whoever, you know, we get the flyers out there for the students, and it's whoever wants to attend. Like I said, we have our veterans or our legacy students that, you know, are the ones that usually are knocking on our door and saying, when's the next trip? Where are we going? You know, kind of thing. Like, my brother got to go. How come I can't go? You know, kind of thing. We had kids that wanted to go somewhere last year, and we're like, no, like, no. But yeah, you know, it's really a first come, first serve. We do not do like a big group fundraiser. I know that kids in the past have, you know, done fundraising independently with their families and things like that. It is a pricey trip, but it's a trip of a lifetime. And that's something that, you know, we've even had parents that have said that, like, this is a lot, but they come home and they have really just said, like, you don't understand. We went here and we did this, and it's like literally life-changing for some of them. So it's really cool to see. It's so cool, especially when the light bulbs start going off. It's so special to see that day when they're all like, you know, it's get off the train and there's the Colosseum in Rome. Like, they were like, what's happening? So yeah, it's very cool to see their faces and just see them immersed in it. So.
anybody else question? Okay, so let's plan on having something. If we're not going to have a motion tonight, let's plan to have one ready for next meeting, which would be the 14th.
Okay, so
Sound good?
do you want like a mock-up of the 26th,
If you
27th,
could.
and 28th?
Yeah, that way, if there's
Okay,
any questions, I think that would
Yep.
kind of help with that.
Yeah.
Be fine.
yeah, okay, perfect.
Yep.
Sounds good. Thank you so
you.
much.
Do you need a minute for that, Mike? Okay, since I don't think anybody will be using the microphone, let's just discuss our Board of Education Leadership Code. It's something that we typically will have at the board office. It's something that every year we update it. You should have had in your packet that code if you want to take a look at it. Will you have it printed up, ready to be signed?
Yes, we will. I have a copy of 18 by 11, and we forward for you all to sign tonight to approve it.
Okay.
But yes, we will then have one.
And there hasn't been any changes from previous. Okay. Do you have it, James, Mike? I have the only copy, isn't that great?
No, it was in the packet previous.
Private, but as far as today.
I read it before, so if things have changed, then.
Okay. And it is posted on our website as well. So, and I did not, unless I missed it in this packet, I did not see a motion for it. It's not a motionable item. Ah. Okay. Ah, there it is. Sorry, I wrote right underneath it. Okay. All right. Why don't we go ahead and have a motion? Anybody? If you want to read it.
Oh, okay. Move to approve the 2023 Leadership Code as presented.
Is there support? Support Mary. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. All right, since I have a copy, we'll have this one signed and then we'll have the one at the board office. So, before you leave, there's a you can put your signature on that. Okay. New proposed agenda discussion. You want to start?
Based on board discussion that has come forward over the last week, we put together a mock, a new agenda, incorporating a place for school presentations like you saw from the high school, but actually calling them school presentations because that's what they've always been and that's what they're going to be, and it just makes it clear. We've obviously put that at that point in the agenda because many times it involves students and you want to be able to get them home. We've then added to the agenda what the board conversation was about at the last meeting, and that was a scheduled participation, addressing agenda items only, to be prearranged in order to address the board on those agenda items. We added, we changed the timing. The board agenda gets posted on Thursdays, typically by 4:30 or 5 o'clock. So that board agenda would be available for review on, Thursday night, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday. And we're asking that if anyone wants to address the board on those agenda items, they submit those requests to us by 4 p.m. on Monday, which gives 4 full days. The reason for that is when they put those items on, and typically there'd be questions, what additional information they want, or what kinds of questions they're going to ask. It gives staff at least then 1 day time to have materials ready to bring forward or to add to the packet if necessary. So that's the reason for the timing. We also then went on with your consent, the policy 1066, should you approve this, we need to change a little bit of the wording in policy 0166, which we would then change and bring to you in February for first reading and adoption at those 2 February meetings. Then your consent agenda is, as always, should you decide to put a student representative on the board, we think that that might be a good place to do it. It again allows them to come and present to you early in the meeting. If they have finals or something, they have the option to then leave the meeting if they want to. All the rest is the same as it has been. There isn't always a curriculum, a finance, a human resource, but when those departments report, they would be on the agenda. And then you have your unscheduled audience participation, which is the same as it has always been. And then scheduled activities is the same. There was a word clarification, and I asked people what that really meant, because I didn't know, and they said that's a chance for the superintendent to clarify anything, should such clarification be needed. And then there's final board comments, which you've always had. And then there was an other that nobody could remember what it was for, so I took it off. But if you want to put it back, you can. But you have your final board comments and then adjournment. So that's what we're proposing to you. It's up for discussion. In the event you're ready to adopt it, there's a motion here. In the event you're not, it can be put back on for discussion or adoption later.
Okay. It's my assumption that everybody's looked at that
Yep.
new agenda format. So I think the best thing to do is have a motion, and we can have discussion if that so presents itself, and then we can talk about it and then vote on it. If there's more questions and that we need to go through, then we still have our vote, and we'll see where that goes, and then we can always bring it up again at a later time. Anybody want to make a motion? James?
So I move to approve or make a motion to approve the new agenda format as presented to us.
Is there support? Dr. Reese? Discussion? Mary?
Of course, I have a discussion. Thank you. One of the things that I recognized on the agenda is, that I'm looking at is continuity of wording and the wording that we use. I think it's important, the wording that we use. When we talk in item number 13 on the proposed agenda where it says unscheduled audience participation, we also refer to that in a couple other places. So if we do change the wording on that, I would just want to look throughout the document. I'm not sure that that really is the correct term, and I don't, I want to be sure that we're clear on what happens in that section. It's really not a participation section. It's a time for audience, for the public to comment to the board. I think it's a misconception to use the word participation because the way that meetings are structured, it is not a time for any kind of back and forth. It is strictly a time to receive comments from the public. So that's my feeling on that.
So can I, would the wording better be unscheduled audience for comments to the board?
Something like that, yeah, it could be unscheduled
Versus-
audience comments, just the word participation, just,
So your
like the right
proposal,
word.
even though we've always had it as unscheduled audience participation, are you saying that you would want to change that, not just for continuity from what we've always used, but just eliminate that portion of it and just put unscheduled participation as it is in 4? It's scheduled participation for agenda items only, but are you saying just unscheduled participation?
no, I'm
she
saying
doesn't like
take out the word
participation.
participation. Because it's
We're
not,
not participating.
I
They
see.
are. They're commenting. I think that's what you're saying,
Yes.
right, Mary?
yes, I
They're
just
the only
like to
ones
call it
participating, so it's not really.
public comment.
Unscheduled
No,
pub,
I would
Pure-
just
pure
align it
play.
with the, just align it with whatever the policy says. It doesn't need to be a big debate. If
Either
it
or,
says
right.
public comment is the policy, then public comment is the section. So
Okay.
it aligns with policy as
Yeah.
well.
We can do those public
And that I would have to look at, but it,
what the policy says, Angela?
can you read that down? Just, or here, you can give it to me and we'll read it that way. Here.
and we can, I mean, and that's wording that we could change on the policy too, but I agree that everything needs to say the same thing. And if that's, that's my feelings on it. I don't know anybody else. I might be the only one.
So as it says here under, says the Board of Education recognizes the value of public comment on educational issues and the importance of allowing members of the public to express themselves on district matters. So in that sentence, it's talking about public comment.
What's it called? What's the
But
title?
the title is public participation. So I don't know that it's necessarily interchangeable, but it is the definition of what that would be. So it's really, do we want to change that, or do we want to leave it
So it is all currently participation.
correct?
It's just, if somebody doesn't like it, then we have to discuss if we're gonna change it. But it is all at least consistent now, I think.
Well, it does say, it says comment within the content of the policy. So, again, then, I mean, if that's what it says, then I would like to change that so the term is clearer.
So then we have to go back to our policies then and review it. and
So
make a
we
change to
would,
the policy.
we
Which we
would,
would be doing, adding the number 4 already. Yeah, taking a look at that policy.
Right. Okay.
and when would the next policy meeting take place, Angela?
So, yeah, here's, we have policy.
There-
We have policies we're bringing you for first reading on the 14th and adoption on the 28th. The Board Policy Committee will have to have a meeting prior to the 14th, probably during those first 2 weeks in February. It is not difficult to add this policy to the stack that we're already bringing you.
Okay. Would you be available, Amanda, if I'm remembering correctly, you're on policy? And Mary, you're on policy? Am I forgetting anybody? No? Okay. So let's have that meeting. And then if we're going to, I think I'm getting stuck here.
You're suggesting starting with the policy.
Right. I think we should start with the policy before we have any changes to our agenda format. Because the policy is really what sets the format. Or am I missing it?
I'm following you, so then, I guess, going back to this, because I made the motion, and then we can vote against it, and then it'll get tabled, and we'll do it again, and then we can update wording and everything. Or the other option, and I'm speaking aloud, is that we approve it as is, policy gets updated, and then we just have to make another motion to update the agenda to the correct wording.
Okay. Okay.
I mean,
And-
a couple
and-
different ways to skin it.
Okay, and then since we're in the discussion part of this, I think we need to align this policy with what we're discussing here as unscheduled, I'm gonna just call it what it is now. Unscheduled audience participation, and then if we adopt the new agenda format, we need to align that with item number 4, scheduled participation for agenda items only. So make sure that policy includes both of those, so that we don't have 2 policies, just one should be able to cover both.
So can I ask, so I understand
Yes, ma'am.
how we're going to do this? So we're not going to decide tonight if it should be participation or comment. The policy committee's going to decide and bring you back a recommendation?
That's what we're discussing, that's the way I'm understanding,
The-
that's how we're discussing.
I think that would probably be our best move forward, because I think there's a lot in this here that needs to align with number 4 and whatever would be number 13. So let's have that, and you're both available before the 14th, correct?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Can we have discussion, though, so that, you know, for instance, if we're
Sure.
undecided between the two of us, we don't have a third on the committee, I'd like to get board thoughts prior
Sure.
to going into this.
Absolutely.
All of it.
Part of the discussion phase, so.
Yeah.
Is there anything that you wanted to add?
Couple things, actually,
Sure.
while I'm here. So, I have to be honest, I'm not real excited for how we're doing now. The scheduled participation, the first part, where community members will have to email and get permission to address the board at that first one, that really wasn't what I was envisioning and what a lot of other districts do. But I do see your reasoning as to why you suggested it that way, so that everyone is prepared to answer, because, and I guess I'm just thinking aloud that if that's the case, that it will be used for that, and that community members will be getting more of feedback and answers to their questions, I'm all for it. But if it's just another coming up and talking to us and no feedback, then that's where I kind of am confused as to how it's any different from prearranged,
Because it's
board.
specific to the agenda items as opposed to people, that just make all of their accusations and comments and those types of things at the end. So this would be, say somebody goes on and they see that we're talking about the high school or the Sabres program or special ed or whatever, and they have a special ed student, so that is interesting to them, and they want to find out about it, and they have a question or a concern about it. I think that's to try and navigate, and then those people can come earlier to the meeting.
Oh,
They
yeah.
can be seen, and they can talk and have their comments be heard, and then leave and not have to sit there for 2 hours or whatever. Is that?
Yeah, I think I understand the response to the question, but really, we have to really look at this, and this is the meeting of the school board in the public. It's not, public gets up, asks us a question, we go back and forth, back and forth. That's the superintendent's position to do. If there's something that comes up, let's just say, somebody had a question about field trips. As you can see, this one, let's just take the one that was just presented by Katie. This is gonna take place in 2024. Somebody comes up and says, how does my student get involved in this? How does my student start to raise money? That's not there's a lot of nuance that goes into the building of what may have been part of this, what may have been part of Dacia's presentation that we may have opinions on, but they might not be cold hard facts of what's actually happening in the building or with this trip. So that's why you don't have public conversation, because we're not the educational portion of it. That's where you would have your superintendent respond. That's how I see it. I mean, again, it's discussion piece.
I don't know that every public comment would ask for added information or would have a question that would need to be answered, but I'm assuming some would. We don't lug all our files here to these meetings, and you need some preparation in order to answer questions when they come up. Now, I have had experience where I've been all prepped because a question came into us by such and such a date, and we got all the information together, and I have it all right here, and then lo and behold, the person never even comes. So sometimes, you prepare and so then we just don't go any further. But most of the time, and some people just want to comment, but frequently there's questions, and those questions should be answered. I think you would, if administration has the answer, you'd want us to be able to give it.
Absolutely.
But it takes us time to look it up.
Yeah, so like I said, I'm comfortable with trying this, and I think that if done correctly, which I have all the faith that you will, that it will be great. One other thing I do want to know about it too, is it going to be pretty much everyone approved? This isn't going to be a deny this, deny that, I don't want you to talk about this or that. We're talking that the majority are going to be approved for comment, correct?
Well, I don't know what kinds of cards are going to come into us. I've been in some places where you get some irrelevant or
Yeah, outside of our normal
rules
for
that
public
are
comment.
not
Sure.
necessarily intended as serious inquiries, just more ways to get up to the microphone and so we would review that. I mean, it really would have to be relevant to an agenda item, and it would have to be a legitimate question or concern related to that. And I'm trying to recall in my career, I mean, I don't know that we've ever had to reject. I think maybe I can recall 2.
Great.
But that's out of a number.
That's what I needed to hear. Thank you.
One was from a student who, it was funny, but the student and I had to have a conversation. And not here, not in Michigan.
Why isn't lunch hours?
Anyway.
Anybody else?
Just a clarification,
Yes.
because you said you took other off, and my very short term here on the board is when I had heard Mary mostly talk about MASB and/or, you know, other things. If that can go under final board comments, that's fine, but if it goes under other, I just didn't want to lose that, because, for instance, like tonight, Mary and I will say something under other about our trip that's coming up to Washington this weekend. So,
That-
just a clarification of where you want us to say those things.
Okay.
And actually, I had some thought about such things.
Go ahead.
Okay. And thank you, Erin, because that it's important, those things coming forward. So what I was thinking is if it's, if we can submit to Angela and Vicki and Dan, before the agenda comes out, they can put something under Board of Education matters, so we could discuss, you know, something that's upcoming, or maybe the OCSBA meeting we just went to. I know that Amanda was at that meeting too. So that is a place that we can put it,
Absolutely.
ahead of time, or there's always under final board comments. But yeah, I usually have something to say.
And this is really what this is an opportunity for us to do is, it's been this way for as long as I've been around. This is just another opportunity as we kind of use a different lens to look at the way that our board operates. That's a good idea, is if there are things that you're going to be doing OCSBA, or you're going to be doing some things on behalf of the board, that's where those would slide under. And I think that's perfectly acceptable to put them there. And, you know, the other was always, the one thing I thought about other is, for those types of things, or if something came up at the last minute. However, when things come up at the last minute, then they can always be under administrative clarification, because typically those would be added at the administrative level, not by one of us.
And if it is something that needs urgent action, it really should then be changes to the board agenda. We would be
Yes.
bringing it to you as a formal, official change to the board agenda, so it could be acted upon as part of the board agenda itself.
For instance, we had a situation that we had to make a purchase relatively quickly. I can't remember exactly what it was. Oh, it was the server.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
It was the server that we turned over. We had no way to run the district. We had to purchase a server, and that needed to be done right away. So that was put under changes to the agenda. So, anything else? Good thoughts?
So I want to talk a little bit about the student representative to the board
Um,
discussion. Is that,
We got, that's the next
is
one.
that the next one?
Yes, it is.
Oh, okay.
All right. Did you have one? All right.
So there was a motion on the floor.
There was a motion on the floor where what's been supported, we've had discussion. So all in favor?
Oh, can I add another comment? I'm sorry. I want to come back to what James was talking about. So the idea that if we do want to try this structure, we can, if we wanted to vote yes on the motion, we can start with this structure and still come back after policy review. If we want to make some of the minor changes, we could do that later. That's not,
Correct.
A
We would be able
problem
to
to that.
change items 4 and 13 and rename those at a later date after policy, make sure that they're all in alignment.
right.
Sound
Okay.
good?
So I just wanted to
So
reiterate
that
James's
does
comment.
make a big difference, I think, to somebody's yay or nay vote. Okay? So let's try that again. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you for that clarification, Mary. Okay. Right. too many agendas in front of me. I got the proposed one, and I got it right here. Yep. So additional committees, there is, there's no motion on this, but it's a discussion that we kind of talked about at our last meeting. I would really like to have this motion on our next agenda, which would be on the 14th. We've been kicking this thing around for 2 years. It needs to be discussed, put on the next agenda, either yes or no, and we'll move forward from there. So why don't we start with Heather, since you were kind of the one that was a big advocate for committees in the past.
Right, so we pretty much have just mainly had a policy committee, but we have been discussing it for 2 years. I've been trying to get committees, so we're about the only district, and when I called multiple districts, we're the only district that didn't have committees. Every district from small to large, Clarkston, Lake Orion, Brandon, Elmont, I talked to Romeo, they all have committees. Some are just listening committees, some are more active, but, you know, they at least have committees that maybe attend a few things and then brief the board back, and just, they're to ensure communication, they're to help facilitate communication, they're there to help, so I would like to kind of bring that back up again, and talk about, you know, I think Dr. Markovich had some ideas on some committees that she has seen work in addition to the policy.
Yes, I communicated to the board, I think it's really critical to have a finance committee. We're going to be doing a 3 to 5 year forecast. The 3 years is, you can get fairly accurate. 4 to 5 is, you know, it's kind of your dream, you put it out there, but don't necessarily put numbers to it. And I think it's really important to have a board committee work with us on that. Also, you have a lot of funding that came into the district that's not necessarily going to be in the district forever. And the finance committee of the board needs to be with us to monitor exactly where those dollars have gone, how much is left. So a finance committee, I truly have never, ever been in a district without a board finance committee. So I'm hoping you will do that. And then I think, especially for where we are here in Oxford and for where our priorities are right now, a safety and security committee would be critical. And, you know, I don't know that you'll need one for 20 years, but I think it's critical now for at least the next 3 to 5 years for sure. And then sometimes those safety security issues evolve into a broader facilities committee, of which you are still attending to safety security, but you are also attending to other facility matters. But for right now, I think safety and security is the name of the committee I'd go with. So those are two that I think are really important, along with finance.
Okay. And we did discuss a little bit, and there was some discussion between board members and Dr. Markovich back and forth. Just because we don't respond back and forth to emails doesn't mean we didn't see them. And I don't think that anything else came up other than those two for now. So we would look at policy, finance, and then safety and security would be one. One of the things that I think is important is that we have a discussion about what those look like. You know, Heather kind of touched upon it earlier. Is it going to be somebody that's just in those meetings as an observer, listening and getting a better understanding, and then after that opportunity, maybe if it's a finance question, that person would speak to Sam one-on-one, then bring that information back to the board for any further clarification. I mean, how have they run in the past that you've been involved with?
That's certainly part of it, but just like the policy committee, we would schedule, for instance, we're going to be in budget development. If you have a finance committee, we're going to call that finance committee in. We're going to talk to them about the budget development process. We're going to ask for their input, see if they have anything they want to add. As we go through that process, there will be certain key points where we will want to bring information back to the board, and that information would first come to the budget committee, or the finance committee rather, so that we get some board view before we would come back to the whole board. The same is with safety and security. You know, we have the huge part of our recovery plan. That committee would be convened. We would bring that committee up to speed with where we are with things. That committee would help us design what would come back for board report. I also see the members of that committee being part of the district safety committee, because you have a district safety committee. And that maybe not both members having to go to every meeting, but at least one of the two members going to those meetings and reporting back to us. So it's both a report back as well as a work with your administrative team in those areas. Certainly, you know, I mean, we're paid to actually produce the budget. We're not asking the finance committee to do that, but we're asking the finance committee to oversee and give input.
Okay. Mary?
I'm still not quite sure about a board safety committee. We have a district safety committee, we have a parent safety committee. I'm just trying to get a better picture of what a board safety committee would look like that wouldn't be part of what is already going on.
It would be part of whatever is going on, but those two board members, just like two board members would work with us on policy development, two board members would work with us on financial reporting and budget development. After you get input from your district safety committee, after you get input from your parent subcommittee, the administration now has to work on implementation of those things. And the two board members on safety and security would work with us on that as board level input.
Okay, all right. So it's kind of also being familiar with our policies. Those are board policies, so being familiar with our policies to be able to speak to how any discussion that they're having relates to the board policy. Are we following our policy? Is this a place where something might need to be changed? Something like that could possibly be part of that. Okay, thank you. That was the picture I needed. Thank you.
Okay. All right, any further questions, thoughts, comments about it? Why don't we do this? Since there is no motion, there won't be any voting on who's on what committee. I think we already have two for policy. Why don't you submit to Dr. Markovich what committee you would see you best suited for? And then we'll get together. I guess there was only one other thing. If I look at this and just the numbering, would there be an idea of having one committee with three? And the only reason is because of the way the numbers work, somebody would be left out, and because I won't be on a committee. And so there would be.
We could certainly go to three. I think the thing is to see where the interest is.
Correct.
From board members.
If there's interest.
And then
Yep.
determine.
Absolutely. Okay?
And just to comment on the safety one, just so people are aware, so the district safety meetings take place during the day, so you would need to be able to be available during the day. Those meetings happen, there's a couple a year, and then the parent subcommittee meetings do happen in the evening. But,
Okay.
so just, another commitment of time as well, so just thinking about that
And policy typically meets during the day.
during the day.
And it's one thing, we're coordinating our schedules along with what cabinet would be meeting. Cabinet is going to be meeting during the day.
Finance would be during the day.
And finance, all cabinet positions, whether it be finance, safety, those will be meeting during the day, and we certainly don't want to add extended time to that day. So just think about that when you're applying for one of these. It's not really applying, just submitting your name. Okay? Any further questions, thoughts, ideas? All right. Item F, proposed student representative to board let me stop there. Proposed student representative to board. Have a discussion since you had a thought earlier. I'll let you start off.
I need to know, like, I need to know what that's gonna look like before I can really put my 2 cents in, because here's what I don't think is appropriate. I wouldn't want it to turn into like a popularity contest and, this kid gets to sit on the board and, so I wanna be careful of that road. So I know I did some research on this as well, because I saw it, I knew we were gonna discuss it. So I had some discussion with, a board member from Lake Orion. They have a student, they have student leadership classes similar to like we do, and they present to the board. They come and present to the board, maybe once a month, once every couple months, kind of depends on what they have going on. But they don't really like sit on their board. And obviously, even if they did sit on the board, there would be no vote or anything, but they're not really like at every board meeting. I think that's a huge commitment for a student. These meetings are long and they're in the evenings. Most of our students are engaged in multiple things. I just don't know that that's, I do want to hear from students. I don't want to come across that I don't want to be open-minded and hear what they have to say. I just don't know if this is the right setup for that. I would like it maybe more in a presentation form than having them be part of the board of ed.
So maybe a
if you
quarterly
will.
presentation?
Something like that might be better. Yeah, I would love to hear from them more. I mean, we do hear from them, especially when we used to go around to the different schools. Some of the principals would have them actually do the presentations. That's happened a lot over the years, where the students actually gave the presentations about the material. Not necessarily curriculum material, but as far as points of pride or things like that. So that's happened a lot over the past. Maybe we can enhance that more in depth of, not just what's going on, points of pride, but how are you guys doing, or maybe a little bit more of a in-depth description. But I just think we need to be careful of that and make sure that we set up the right parameters.
Okay. Amanda?
So I hear that, and I've looked at a lot of different ways that it can be set up. There are quite a few states, I think New Jersey is the most recent, that they've enacted legislation that requires a student representative to the board. They see the value in that. They see that having student representatives on the board not only increases their civic mindedness, it keeps the board in check to remind us who we are here for and what the policies that we're passing, who they are affecting, and it gives them an opportunity to let us know. And so now typically, this would be done as, they would receive credit, either one elective credit or however the school would determine that, and they would be supervised. And I've seen it in different ways where it is somewhat of a team, where it would be the superintendent, principal, and then whoever is involved with student council, student leadership. That's kind of where you draw your pool of candidates, and you can do all sorts of different things for them applying. I know Detroit Public Schools go so far as to have them fill out petitions with signatures, kind of like we did to become board members, and then go through the interview process, and there's vetting, and then of course administration ultimately would pick. I've seen sometimes where the board does it, but it looks like mainly this would be administration decides, and they would serve a year term, receive the credit for it, and then would have to come to the board meetings and look at our agenda, just like we do, look at the agenda in advance and say, get with different populations of the schools and not just their own grade. They would be a liaison with the elementaries, with the middle schools, with anything pertaining, and come to us and say, this is the field, this is what students think, this is what students think about this that you're voting on, or this is, we like this, we don't like this, and it would be, again, for credit and a grade, so that kind of keeps it, and I've also seen where you can do a guideline of questions to ask for them, and that way they stay on, this policy or what. Obviously, they wouldn't have voting or closed session rights or anything like that, and they can leave typically right after, if you put it at the beginning of the agenda or close to the beginning, they can leave shortly after for homework and home responsibilities. But that's kind of the gist of my answer to your question.
I have a quick question more for curriculum. When you discussed the state of New Jersey, was that who provided the credit, or was it another district within the state of Michigan? So I just want to make sure that we're aligned. Could we provide credit for a student if they were on the board?
I do know there are plenty of Michigan schools that do this. Dr. Markovich, you said your most recent school, you had it too, right?
But I just want to make sure that we can provide them with,
Oh, that was Indiana, I'm sorry.
well, I just want to make sure that we can provide them with credit, because I don't want to put something out there and then get 50 kids apply for something that they think they're getting school credit for, and then the state requirements don't allow us to provide that.
Oh, yeah, we'll need to do more work on this.
Right.
We'll need to work with administration. This was just the idea coming forward, but there are a lot of things that we would need to hammer down before we are in a position to actually implement this. But I do know that there are plenty of school districts, I just named Detroit, so there's plenty in Michigan
Right.
that do this and give credit, so I have to imagine.
So
there's a-
since there is a motion, I want to make sure, I know, but since there is a motion that may happen, I want to make sure that we can provide credit.
I believe so. I will look into it further. The example of a leadership student, for example, would be a student who has that probably desire and connection to the student body, but they're already receiving credit in leadership class. So there might be some other possibilities, but students earning credit, there's a lot of flexibility around that, so as they still meet the districts and the state's graduation requirements, which they do.
And I,
Well, and
hang on,
any student should be able to apply,
Yeah.
not just
just leadership, it should be any,
any student in the high school,
And-
anybody.
and I think that we should open it up. Mary and I had a phone call about this. So, do you mind if I?
Go ahead.
Okay. I think we should open it up to all of our, I mean, you have Bridges should be able to apply, Ova should be able to apply, Oxford High School should be able to apply.
Any student.
Any student that's in a high school of our in Oxford Community Schools, they should have the opportunity to apply. It shouldn't, and taking it one step further, and it's nothing to disparage our administrators at the high school. This board should make, you're coming on to this board. This board makes the decision. You apply to this board just as everybody else would apply to a position, and then the board makes that decision based on, we'll narrow it down, we'll have interviews, just like we've done before. I think that's an important part of the process that a student would be learning. It's not just, you've been in this activity, that activity, and we're going to bring you onto the board because somebody at the high school said this is our best person. We have a lot of people in the community that applied for the open positions, and I want that student to understand that this is how that process goes. And if you choose this process later in life, this is what it's going to look like. So, anybody else? Let's go Mary and then James. Ladies first.
Thank you. So I was thinking about the other schools too, and I think that, I think what's important is to first know why we want to do this. Like what is the goal? What is the goal for the board? What is the goal for the student? What is the goal for all of the students? I think we should also consider if we have a student representative, maybe we should have a representative from each of the high schools, because those are three totally different experiences that our high school students are having. So I think that's important to know to set expectations, what are the goals for the students to learn, and what is it that, and how does it benefit the board and the district? It's not just something else to go sit on and put on your college application. To something that was mentioned earlier about bringing a student voice, I think we have to be careful with that, because one representative from OHS or one from Bridges or one from OVA, it's still going to be, we want to be sure that we're careful about the words that we use also. They might be able to share what you know, what people are thinking, but they also can't speak for every student. So I just want to be careful with things like that, because it's hard for people to get out of their own groups. It's hard for adults to get out of their own groups, you know, and learn something new. So just want to be sure that we're careful with that. I mean, I think it would be a great idea. I think just to know what it is, why we're doing it is what's important. You know, making sure that we work with administration along the way so that we're not making it harder for somebody else.
James?
I like the idea. I understand your concerns with one student speaking the voice, but we're of 7 people that we hear from the community and stuff, and it's kind of very similar. I know with briefly looking at this that there's no reason, and granted this is a discussion, so it's not a motion, but as we kind of develop this more and formalize it, even a group of people as a rotating, just so it's just not one person. I don't want to make it more work for administration or for us, but as a way to get an insight from their perspective. I know as my kids grew and getting perspective from their stuff as they went through life, I kind of opened my eyes to things that as an adult I either forgot about or I didn't think was important. And I think having that representation on the board as a speaking part, where either via presentation or just we have worked really hard to say that we want, as a board, hear the community, hear our kids, and make it as one Oxford again. And I think this is a great step, if done properly, that we can get there and get another perspective that can only benefit us as a whole, and not stifle anybody's voice or thoughts from their perspective. And so I'm excited for this. I'm in full support as we work forward and do it. And I think if done right, it can be very successful. And I think it would only benefit us as a board, as our school community, and as the student population at large.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else? Dr. Reese?
I just asked Amanda too, because I know she did the bulk of the research on this, but I'm assuming the policy committee would have to be involved because we don't have an active policy for student representation on the board, so it looks like we're not going to be able to make a motion, but the ask today, just to clarify, is that administration policy committee come together with a plan and present to us on a future agenda, so that way we can vote in student representation, however that shall look.
I did see, I forget the district, but it was in Michigan, a Neola policy specifically for this, so. Yeah, I forget which one nearby, but they're out there, for sure.
And we've begun collecting the policy for student reps in the
Okay.
event that this would come up. So I think the next step going to the policy committee is a good one.
Okay, so any other further thoughts, ideas on this student representative on the board? Anybody? No? Okay. Just because there's a motion here, we do not have to make that motion. So let's table the motion.
I thought it was just discussion. There was no motion here.
There's a recommendation
Oh,
for action rather
but
than
we
being
never
discussion.
made the motion. Okay.
Yes,
Thanks.
so it's just to support. Correct.
We don't make them.
And so let's just narrow this down. Policy committee will meet before the 14th and make sure we have a policy that covers that. And we will make that motion on the 14th. Sound good? Yes.
Can I also suggest that we have, it sounds like you did a little bit of your own research, some data of the value, like, let's look at some statistical information from a district that used it. What value did they get out of it? How was the program set up? How did it go back to curriculum if it did, or was it just a student volunteer position and there wasn't a credit situation involved? Let's get something on paper to look at.
I'm a data person, you're really gonna like what I send you.
Okay, no graphs.
And Steve, if by then, when the policy meets, can you just see how that would look? And I just don't want to promise a student something and then fall short of that.
You know, we would probably obviously look at making this for next year then, right? Especially if we tied it to a credit, because we're already in the second semester of,
We can, okay.
Typically,
Steve's
it would
giving
go
me a thumbs up.
September.
what?
The-
That's why I
It
said
would start
next
in
school year.
September, yes.
Yes,
sorry.
school year, yes.
Yep.
Steve's giving me the thumbs up that we can have credit for it. We can, they can receive credit.
The thumbs up was for it to be next year.
Ah. See, that's part of that interpretation that I missed.
Second semester has started.
Okay, all right.
Okay,
So,
so policy and data
Policy will,
collection.
and data collection will happen, and then we'll move forward on that. All right, good thoughts, good ideas. Is there anything that you wanted to add? Okay. We're at item number 7. It seems like it's like way down there, but we're on item 7. Curriculum and instruction. Anita and Steve.
We had, last board meeting brought forth some edits to our district course catalog. And
Yes.
so, we just wanted to bring that back to the table to see if there was a vote on that.
Yes, you all have the course catalogs? Okay,
Yeah, I'll go
What-
ahead and make the motion.
go ahead.
Move to approve the 22-23 revised district course catalog, oh my gosh, as presented.
Is there support? Support James. Any discussion? All is in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. And then there's item B, which was presented previously. The Oxford High School auto class purchase was the lift. Is there anybody, yes?
No, I'm ready to read it.
Is there anybody that needs an update on that? Okay. Heather,
Move to approve the purchase of a scissor lift and materials from Equipment Distributors Incorporated for $42,129.04.
is there support? Support Mr. Whitney. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Safety and School Operations, Dr. Willman, sorry.
Sorry, more people mess up my married last name than my maiden name, which was Lingenfelter, so I'm getting
Try
used to
running
it.
through with D'Alessandro.
Yeah, that's true. Okay, here we go. And so the first thing that I have is the School of Choice document that I brought last month. The question was posed, and I did give Dan an answer at the end of the meeting, but
Yes, thank you.
the question came up of OVA's different date, and that it is a date that the campuses are all allowed to choose, so I just wanted to make sure that that was passed on, so.
Yes.
It's just you voting on this evening.
Okay. Mary?
Motion out. Move to approve the 2022-2023 Schools of Choice enrollment dates as follows. First semester, 2023, developmental kindergarten through ninth grade unlimited. Unlimited Schools of Choice enrollment will open on March 1, 2023, and close on August 14, 2023. 10th and 11th grades, unlimited to IB, Health Science, Engineering Academy, and Dance Conservatory Early College. Unlimited Schools of Choice enrollment will open on March 1, 2023, and close on August 14, 2023. Developmental kindergarten through 12th unlimited, Oxford Virtual Academy. Unlimited Schools of Choice enrollment will open on March 1, 2023, and close on August 18, 2023.
Is there support? James? Any discussion? All is in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item B, camera update for
Yes.
transportation.
Yes, so this was also presented last
Yes.
meeting, so I'm here.
Okay.
If you're ready for a vote.
All right. Anybody want to make that motion? Dr. Reese?
Move to approve the camera update from REI for $30,550.
Is there support? Support Amanda? Any discussion? Okay. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, can you grab this, please?
Just two.
Okay, Angela Halleck.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Well,
That's okay.
okay,
Okay.
very good.
You don't have to run, it's okay. We'll wait.
You're good.
We got the good cookies.
So I only got 3 minutes.
Yes.
Okay, I have a couple different topics, so I'm gonna do one really quick,
Okay.
and then I'll get to my other one. So my first one will be, and I speak from elementary level.
Okay.
That's all I'm familiar with. Because of a safety fail issue that occurred on December 15th at one of the elementary schools, it was brought to the attention to many that there is a community member not employed by Oxford School District who has a master key to all the schools. The safety resource officer of this elementary school did not and does not have this community member on his list of people who have a master key. So, according to policy 7440, if you could check up on that one. It talks about an effective key control policy, and that includes stamped metal keys. Controlled access provides the highest level of security to all of our buildings. Social emotional learning comes to us from Second Step. Second Step's biggest monetary contributor is Community for Children, whose stated goals are social justice goals. First, parents need to know that this is taught in the classroom every week. Every single week for 30 minutes, a social worker comes in the classroom to talk about the feelings. They are at times broken up into small groups, left to talk about topics that make them feel all the emotions. These SEL curriculum focus totally on validating how children feel, which may or may not be based on reality. When I asked to have a copy of all these lessons back in September when they started, I was not granted permission nor allowed to make copies. Same thing happened to me last year. I was told these copies are from a private third party. So since they were copyrighted, I couldn't get a copy. Each grade has a 3-inch binder with these weekly lesson plans. I went in to view them with my principal. After my request into these lessons, a paper came home with the students, and it listed this as 4 topics to be discussed. One would think that this would be taught 4 times throughout the year, but no, this is every single week. So the parents get a code that comes home with them. It is not the same as what the staff get. So I asked the principal to type in my code as a parent, and we got to view what I got to view. And then I had her type in her code as the principal, and it went from 0 to 60. So I said to her, do you see? It's a big difference. Why, as a parent of a child, can I not take this curriculum home to show my husband who's at work? It's not right. I do not want my children who are emotionally competent to have their academic subjects taken away so they can learn about how they feel. That's my job. In one of my child's classes, there's 24 students.
Sorry.
Every week, I go in there and I remove 25% of the children out of the classroom per their parents' request. I take them out and we go and learn about math and spelling for those 30 minutes. For the children whose parents have opted them out of SEL, they would be sitting in the office, hearing or seeing all the affairs and controversy of the office that cycles through there on a daily basis, or in the hallway unattended.
Okay, if you can wrap up, that's the 3 minutes. Sorry. Okay, what I'd like for you to do is, we need to know your first point. We need to know that right now, or not here right now, but before you leave. Okay?
Okay, you'll see me next week,
Okay, thank you.
next time.
Angela, can you get that name from her? Thank you. Corey Bailey. That. You don't, there's nothing on that one.
In 2019, early 2019, May actually, Policy 8402 was adopted. That is our emergency operation plan, which said that by no later than January 1st, 2020, an emergency plan would be adopted by the board. The school did adopt this. We even used this plan to send into the state and received almost $500,000 grant after approving this plan. This plan was to be, policy was to be updated every 2 years, according to the policy, with review of a vulnerability assessment and return to the state of Michigan. In November, the first meeting in November, Assistant Superintendent Lamont presented that the 2-year update was due and there were still many items we had not completed to be turned in on time. The state sent numerous emails to every district that was behind, Oxford being one of them. I was on the board until September of 2022, and until that time, those EOPs had not been presented nor approved by this board. The original and the update both require vulnerability assessments to be done by law enforcement at each building. So my question is, or a few questions, have we finished these, and when will the board approve that new EOP? When will the vulnerability assessments be done? What changes were done from the EOPs that were adopted in 2019 that obviously failed us in November of 21? And with all that this school district has been through, why was this not more of a priority to get these done and approved on time?
Any other late ones? Okay. There's a list of scheduled activities ranging anywhere from our next board meeting on, there's actually a workshop on the 4th, and then our next Board of Education meeting is on the 14th. Pardon? Yes, on Valentine's Day. Clarification, I don't have any clarification. Final board comments. Anybody?
I do have some OCSBA
Yes.
stuff. You want to do that now, or do you want to do that at the end?
If we could do it real quick, that'd be good.
Oh, we can try.
Yeah.
So, thank you. Just wanted to remind everybody that we got an email from OCSBA regarding resolutions and bylaws and the legislative priorities. Those are going to go on the agenda on the first meeting in February for us to review and discuss, and then on the second meeting in February, we'll be voting on those. There's a certain majority of districts that need to vote affirmatively in order for OCSBA to adopt them as their updated bylaws, resolutions, legislative priorities. There's also a couple things coming up. Just wanted to let folks know for OCSBA, there's a dinner meeting in Oakland Schools coming up on March 15th, and the awards banquet on June 21st. You will be getting emails about that if you're interested. I know Amanda attended the last meeting that we had online, so I didn't know if you wanted to talk about that for a minute. That was a great meeting. But you'll be hearing more from us about the things going on. But if you want to save those dates, it'll be some interesting stuff going on. And I know Aaron and I are heading to Washington DC for some advocacy work, and maybe she wants to speak about that for just a moment. So there's my final board comments, and thank you for all the presentations today. It was very helpful. Thank you.
Yeah, Mary and I will be in Washington starting Saturday, and we will be meeting with a number of legislative individuals from the state of Michigan, both representing our district in the U.S. House of Representatives and then our Senate leaders to advocate for federal funding, especially around IDEA, special education, and a few other legislative priorities that Mary had already set out in hopes to open up something. Hopefully with the, the disruption in the House, that it won't slow down legislative movement. I think education is a priority of all of our legislators this year in safety and security, so. So, we'll be back on
Anybody
Wednesday.
else?
I appreciate you guys going, so thank you for taking the time to go. It's a lot of hours are put into this. This is all extra things out of your time. So it's very appreciated by the board, and I hope the community as well.
Okay. Anybody else? I don't have anything under other.
Okay.
So we do have, I'm sorry.
You want me to read it?
Yes, closed session.
Move to meet in closed session pursuant to the Open Meetings Act, Section 8E, for the purpose of consulting with its attorney regarding trial strategies in connection with case numbers 21 CV 12871, 21 22 CV 10407, 22 CV 10805, 22 CV 11113, 22 CV 11250, 22 CV 11251, 22 11 360, 22 11 398, 22 11 448, 22 11 959, 22 19 22 62 NO, 22 19 48 91 NO, and 22 19 56 63 NO, and Section 8H to consider materials exempt from discussion or disclosure by state or federal statute, attorney-client privilege, written legal opinion. Do we do roll call vote?
Roll call
Roll
vote
call.
starting. Trustee Whitney.
There needs to be
Yeah.
support first.
We do need to have support.
Yes.
And I will
Support Mary.
Sorry.
And then I have a discussion item for that. After the support.
Discussion.
So, discussion, I just wanted to clarify and make sure new board members knew and remind us old board members, seasoned board members, of our board policy 0167.2 regarding closed session. And the closing paragraphs, I'll just read these to you. In keeping with the confidential nature of closed sessions, no member of the board shall disclose the content of discussions that take place during such sessions. The only exceptions will be discussions with the district's legal counsel or as directed by an order of a court with proper jurisdiction. It is expected that board members shall not record nor communicate by any means, electronic or otherwise, with party or parties outside such meetings regarding the substance of such meetings, either during or after the course of such meetings. And that does reference state statutes. If anybody would like them, I can give them to you, but that is per our policy per state statutes.
Okay. Roll call vote, please.
Trustee Whitney.
Approve.
Trustee Summers.
Approve.
Trustee McDonough.
Yes.
Secretary Reese, yes. Treasurer Hanser.
Yes.
Vice President Schaefer.
Yes.
President D'Alessandro.
Yes. Okay, it is 9:20. So it's 11:10. We're out of closed session and back into open session. Meeting's adjourned.